My toxic boss refuses to give me the raise I absolutely am entitled to, challenging me instead to see if I can find a job elsewhere at that rate. So I decide to get some revenge by doing exactly that, finding a new and better job that's actually paying me my worth. That leaves my boss in a scramble to try and keep me around. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I spent a few years at this company. The pay there is not competitive, and we all get a measly 3% raise each year, nothing even close to inflation levels. I had been in a starter position and still studying on the side, so I agreed with my boss already a couple years ago that I would get a promotion once I graduated. Well, last September I graduated and I asked for said promotion. I had looked over the workers' union salary statistics, and the median wage would be around 18% of a bump for me. I didn't expect to get that much because besides them being incredibly cheap, the economy was bad and they had just downsized like 15% of the staff in July. Luckily, I had got myself into a strong position of being one of the only ones left with some kind of unique skills. So I survived the downsizing. Anyhow, I show my boss a copy of the statistics and I ask for the median. But when I did this, my boss scoffs at me and proceeds to fight as hard as he can to justify lowballing me. He says so many things to me that are just so baffling. He said to me, "Oh, come on, you're rich, bro." And he said that about my salary. And it's like, no, dude, I'm really struggling in this economy. If I give you more, then you'll just spend more. But it's like, it's not your concern what I do with my well-deserved money. He then said to me, no one at that level makes that much here, and that the statistics apparently must be wrong. I later went around the office to find colleagues in that level, and the first coworker that I asked said basically that they earn exactly what I asked for. He then brought up some concerns about my communication, petty things like me not replying to a colleague's email for like 3 days, which by the way, it was 3 days during which I was off-site to give a course somewhere. But my favorite thing he said was the following: "You can go look for other jobs to see how much others are offering. You'll see that it's not going to be any better." He lingered on my salary adjustments until December, negotiating with human resources, and then finally offers me 11%, which is around what I actually expected. But this does come with a catch. Next year, I would not get the usual 3% salary adjustment like everybody else. At first, I was stunned, but I said, you know what? Deal, let's go for it. You see, I had taken his advice, or rather called his bluff, and was already getting quite far in interviews. Come January, I landed an offer from the top company in our field. Think something like Google or Apple, but in my industry. And they were offering me what would have been about a 35% bump. I hit my boss with the news and he promptly panics. He says that they want me to stay and that they need me and that my performance and development have been great and all this other garbage. But apparently they can't match the offer because according to him, not even top management makes that much. Now, I obviously didn't believe him, but I said, I understand it's not fair that I earn more than everyone else, but just do your best. He then runs to the top boss office and somehow within 30 minutes, they magically found the budget for a 30% raise, which for me is perfect. I now had the leverage to negotiate an even better offer for my future boss, because after all, I had already made up my mind that I was going to leave a long time ago. Dude, I love this so much. Absolutely, this is the way you should handle this. It's so funny dealing with toxic bosses who treat you like this. They think that for some reason you're like enslaved to them and you can't ask for anything higher. And the second you do find something better, they're like, oh, wait a second, we like you. Your performance is off the charts. We really enjoy having you around. And it's like, okay, well, if you enjoy having me around and you think I'm a good member of the team, then give me a higher pay. That's how you show it. Words mean nothing. You saying, oh, good job there, Billy, that's not going to pay my bills, but getting the increase I'm entitled to absolutely does. But regardless, good for you for knowing that you're still going to leave that company. There is no future there in my opinion, and I think leaving is the best option for you. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My parents are desperate to get rid of a tenant who is not paying their rent, so I worked through some legal loopholes to make sure this guy is out the door in a timely fashion, shutting him and his awful attitude down in the process. Here's how I did it. Okay, in the late 70s, my parents bought too much house for too much money, and the place had a basement tenant. My parents said that the rent from the basement will cover the mortgage, but the tenant wasn't paying rent, and after a few months, my parents missed a mortgage payment. The tenant was not even in the place most days. He had another place close to work, and he just used my mother's place as a weekend party crash pad. I tried talking to him, but he really had a bad attitude. My father tried to evict the man, but was defeated by the paperwork. By the time my mother had asked for my help, they were absolutely desperate. They had a mortgage to pay, and they needed the guy gone before the bank came knocking. Now, the courthouse had a law library and nice people at the desk, and with their help, I served and filed some forms, but the tenant didn't care. He just laughed and said I should tell it to the judge. When the court date finally came, the tenant was there looking smug, as if the law weren't on my side. And you know what? I soon learned why. I watched case after case case get adjourned. First time up is what the judge would say, and that would be that. And then the case would be delayed for like another 3 months. But the tenant's smugness worked against him. The judge did not like him one bit and ended up giving him the heave-ho, ordering him as evicted effective immediately. I wanted to celebrate, but the tenant was smiling as he walked out of court, and that caused me serious concern. And this is where an old paralegal helped me out. A judgment's just a piece of paper, he told me. You'll still need the sheriff to get him out. I've been clutching my court order like a trophy, but the paralegal's words deflated me. I said to him, well, can the sheriff come right away? But the paralegal laughed at me, telling me about rights and deposits, about sheriff's fees and delays. I then said, well, is there any other way around that? I mean, I needed help. I was only 17 at the time, and my legal loophole antenna had not grown yet. The paralegal told me that there's no exceptions, adding that unless the man abandoned the place, I would need the sheriff. So I said to him, well, thanks for the loophole. And the paralegal just looked at me like I was nuts. 3 days later, the tenant knocked on our door in a rage because his key to his apartment did not work. But I told him that we found the place abandoned, which was technically almost true, sort of. It had been unoccupied for a few days, and when I entered purely to do a wellness check, the place had a decidedly unoccupied feel. I felt obliged to call it into the police just to report it and try to make a record of it. Abandoned residential unit, and the landlord is moving contents to storage. Abandoned, the tenant said. Where's my stuff? Now, the nice lady at the courthouse library had not been very impressed with my eviction loophole, but she helped me draft a release. The lady said, you're going to need one, after admonishing me for coloring outside the lines and making me promise not to pull a stunt like that ever again. I said to the tenant that they need to sign here, trading the release for the storage company's address. The tenant then called me from the storage place an hour later, telling me what a jerk I was, that I had stuck him with a big storage fee. But I just said to him, look, if you don't pay the storage fee, they're gonna say that you abandoned the unit, and you don't want to do that. You'll lose all rights if you abandon a place. And after that, I hung up the phone because I knew I got that guy out of our place. Wow, this is awesome. This is really cool. Like the original poster says, they did this when they were 17 years old. There's no way I would be able to do that when I'm 17. Like, this guy is absolutely a future lawyer in the works. And I love the fact that you did everything right. You played the game, and this guy absolutely did not have a leg to stand on. And based on his attitude and the way he was treating you and your family, this really does feel like karma working its magic. My aunt demands that I turn off every light whenever I leave the room. So I decide to maliciously comply, resulting in my aunt sitting in the dark on more than one occasion. Here's what happened. Back when I was in high school, I lived with an extremely frugal aunt while my parents were abroad. She had this obsession with saving on the electricity bill. And it's like, fair enough, but she took it to the extreme. One day she caught me walking out of the kitchen and scolded me for leaving the ceiling light on, even though I was going back in less than a minute. But she said she didn't care if I was gone for 30 seconds. When you leave a room, you turn off every single light. And I said, okay, got it. So I started turning off lights whenever I leave a room, and soon I pretty much got used to it. Later that week, she was cooking in the kitchen, and I was helping her grab ingredients from the pantry, which was technically a separate little room connected to the kitchen. I stepped into the pantry, grabbed the oil, walked out, and turned off every single kitchen light as I exited the room. And when I did that, she shrieked mid-stir like she had gone blind. What are you doing? I'm still here. I said to her, oh, I thought you weren't. You said turn off every light when I leave a room, and my muscle memory is already getting used to it. But you know what? It didn't stop there. Anytime we were in the living room and I got up to use the bathroom, I'd leave her in pitch black darkness. Once she was watching TV and I just clicked off the power bar on my way out. It took about 4 days of bumping into furniture before she said, okay, maybe just use common sense. Now, I still turned the bathroom light off every time she used it though, because I wasn't in the room after all. And it took a while before my muscle memory returned to normal, but thankfully it did annoy her in the process. Yeah, it's super weird to be like, you need to turn off every light all the time. Anytime you leave the room, you gotta turn off that light. And it's like, yeah, I get that, but if you really want to be crazy about it, then let's get crazy. Let's live in the dark, basically. Like, what is going on right now? So yeah, I love the way you handled this. This really was a good way of maliciously complying, and you did it in a roundabout way, like you didn't even mean to do this, which in my opinion makes this all the funnier. Did I overreact for not clapping when my brother's girlfriend revealed my baby name for my unborn child? Because right now I'm still incredibly upset and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 29-year-old female and I'm 21 weeks pregnant with my first child. We've kept the name a secret. My husband and I agreed on the name Ivy early on and have just been referring to her as the baby to the family. Last weekend, my mom threw a gender reveal party and invited my extended family and my younger brother's girlfriend. And for reference, my younger brother and his girlfriend have been dating for 5 months. After the "it's a girl" part, my mom starts bringing out cupcakes, and my brother's girlfriend loudly says, "Well, I guess we can finally call her Ivy now." When she said this, everybody clapped, but I just stood there awkwardly. I never told her. I had told my mom in confidence because she was making a quilt with initials. I then pulled my mom aside and she just brushed it off. As she said, "Oh, she just got excited." I then asked my brother's girlfriend later how she knew, and she said, well, your mom told me, and I thought it might be cute to announce it. I didn't cry or yell, but I went home early and I ignored text messages for the rest of the weekend. My mom then says that I killed the mood, and my brother says that I'm being possessive over a name, but I'm just so frustrated. I wanted to introduce my daughter's name myself. So am I overreacting about this situation, or are they right? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Okay, dude, first of all, no, you did not overreact. If someone did that to me, I'd be pretty pissed off. Because the name really is special. It's not something you want people to throw around just all over the place, because then it loses its luster. And then before you know it, someone's gonna steal it. And then you're never gonna be able to use that name because like, oh God, someone else took it. And that's definitely happened several times before. And the fact that your mom secretly told everybody about it is completely toxic. Like, you have every right to be pissed off at her, and also probably be guarded at telling her anything secretive in the future. So no, you did not overreact, and you have every right to be pissed off. An entitled boomer was acting like a complete fool at the airport, all because his flight wasn't on time in the way he wanted, as he literally humiliated himself in a hilarious fashion, especially after the airport staff clapped back. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of backstory, my wife had injured her foot the night before we were set to take a transatlantic flight back to the States from Italy. We thought it healed okay, but the morning of our flight, it started to swell significantly while we were waiting to board at the Naples airport. During the first hour of the flight to Atlanta, where we would need to catch our connecting flight, I asked the flight attendants for some ice and if we could have a wheelchair when we touched down. My parents raised me on the idea that you catch more flies with honey, so I did what I could to be polite and grateful with each request I had to make. The flight attendants were accommodating and amazing and helped ensure that my wife was comfortable during the 9-hour flight. So we touched down and they were extremely apologetic as they explained that we were going to have to walk off the plane and all the way down the tunnel to the gate as they can't bring the wheelchair any closer. I grabbed up our bags and my wife said, okay, no problem. So she hobbled slowly and did her best to grab railings for support. We took our time and eventually made it there. Eventually, a delightful woman scooped up my wife in a wheelchair and guided us to the restrooms, baggage claim, and also the drop-off point where we had to place our bags for the connecting flight. This woman was telling jokes, asking us about our trip, and being an all-around wonderful human to my wife. I mean, we were having a ball. Once we dropped off our connecting bags, she took us to an area where other people in wheelchairs were waiting in a sort of queue to go through security. And this is where the boomer of our story was waiting. So, in this area, there was a gentleman who checked us in and confirmed our connecting flight, another gentleman who helped us load our baggage, and a woman who was at a computer terminal and was requesting agents to assist all those in wheelchairs. We thanked the man who checked us in and thanked the man who loaded our bags. We then proceed to wait as we hear and see others passing through security. Our flight doesn't board for another 40 minutes and doesn't leave for another hour and 10 minutes, so we just kind of sit and chat for a little bit. We also know that we have the earliest flight of everyone there because they arrange the queue when we arrive. They put my wife first and they say as much. About 20 minutes pass and 3 more people arrive and are placed in the queue. It's looking like a Mario Kart race is about to begin when the boomer, who's destined to be a fool, starts to get impatient. My wife and I are passing the time chatting when I notice he is starting to become visibly agitated. So he just shuffles in his wheelchair and grimaces a bit. About 25 minutes of waiting and another employee approaches the woman at the computer terminal. They then start having a conversation when this guy yells out, "All of us have connecting flights, you know." This statement is of course superfluous, as I cannot in my head imagine why else the employees of the airport would have lined everyone up in this queue, unless the Atlanta airport has some form of wheelchair-based Mad Max Fury Road kind of event that we just don't know about. The woman at the computer, a saint by all accounts given her patience with this idiot, calmly replies by saying, "Yes sir, we know you have connecting flights. We are working as quickly as we can to get agents here to escort each person through security." The man who had arrived and was speaking with her chimes in as well and says, "We are going to make sure that you are taken care of and don't miss your flights." Now, it's clear to my wife and I at this point that every member of Atlanta airport staff that we see is doing the job assigned to them and is working to take care of us. But this completely escapes this entitled boomer. He gestures to the 2 men who signed us into the queue and helped us out with our bags, who were both currently on their phones since there have not been any new arrivals to the Mario Kart queue. "What about them?" this entitled boomer shouts, his face turning red and his mustache bristling up to make it look like he's about to audition for the part of Vernon in the new Harry Potter series. The saint replies calmly and says, "Sir, they are not agents. They assist with checking people in and handling their connecting flight baggage." Well, this entitled boomer has had it at this point. His unwillingness to hear reason and his impatience for lackitude to start the race gets the better of him. "This is a stupid system, and of course you would have to do this in the stupidest way possible. Why in the world would you do it this way? You're so stupid." The man who had walked up and was conversing with the saint drops all pretense of politeness at this point and looks at this guy dead in the eye and says, "Well, if you dislike it that much and don't want to let us handle it, you could, just walk through security on your own. The entitled boomer then immediately shuts up and stews in his wheelchair in a silent rage. Literally a minute after the exchange, a pleasant agent by the name of Jasmine swoops in and wheels my wife through security. We make sure to verbally thank every one of the employees in the waiting area before we go. I look back one last time at this entitled boomer as we are leaving, and he is red in the face and looking quietly down at the floor. Once we are on the flight home, my wife and I both talk about the exchange and how cringy his treatment was of the staff as a whole. Yeah, I'm right there with the original poster. I honestly cannot stand when people make these big show and tell about how upset they are at an airport, like especially in a place like that, because like, dude, the plane's gonna show up when it's there. Like, it's not gonna get there any sooner with your complaining, so you might as well just sit tight and deal with it. Plus, the people who helped you and the agents have nothing to do with the flight being on time or late. It is literally not their fault, because I think the original poster hit the nail on the head. You will absolutely attract more flies with honey, and the boomer in this story was definitely vinegar through and through. Did I overreact by leaving my own engagement dinner after what my family said to me when I said that I didn't want to serve people at my own party? Because right now, everybody seems to be teaming up against me, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm still kind of processing this, so I'm sorry if it's all over the place. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I just had my engagement dinner this weekend. It was a small thing at my parents' house, just close family and some friends. It was supposed to be a happy day. I was in a good mood, a bit exhausted, but I was excited. So after the main stuff was done, and people started settling down for food, my mom quietly tells me to go to the kitchen and start serving people. Now, I thought she was joking at first. Like, I'm literally the one getting engaged. I've been up since 6 in the morning helping decorate, cleaning, organizing, smiling through 300 introductions. I mean, I had not eaten all day. So I told her very calmly, Mom, can someone else do it? I just want to sit for 5 minutes and eat. She then just gives me this look. Then my aunt joins in and says something like, this is how modern girls act now, so full of themselves the moment they get a ring. I think she thought she was whispering, but half the room could hear it. I looked over at my fiance, expecting him to maybe say something, but he just looked down at his plate, like he just didn't want to be involved. And at this point, I don't know what came over me. I felt so embarrassed, so angry. I went to the bedroom and I changed into some jeans. I called a cab and then I left. I then texted my fiance that I needed space and I didn't want to make a scene. Well, now my mom's crying, saying I ruined the event. My dad says I disrespected the family, and my fiance says he gets why I was upset, but he wishes I hadn't walked out like that. I honestly don't know. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I should have just sucked it up. But a part of me keeps thinking, well, if this is how it starts, what's next? So did I overreact here? Because right now I'm not really sure. No, I don't think you overreacted at all. Honestly, the way your family's acting is pretty cruel. You literally got engaged and they're trying to be like, okay, serve everyone food. Like, it is not an unusual ask for you to be like, hey, can somebody else do it? I kind of want to sit and enjoy this moment. For them to be like, oh, you've got to do it. And then for your stupid aunt to be like, wow, women these days, they get a ring and they're so full of themselves. It's like, maybe that's how you act, but that's not at all how the original poster was acting. They didn't ask for like some big task. They just said, hey, I don't want to serve people. I want to sit and eat, which kind of also leads me to believe that they do this to you a lot. And this might be the first time you've ever stood up for yourself. But honestly, with all things considered, I don't think you overreacted, because for them to make you serve people during your party is kind of weird in my opinion. My friends literally exclude me from a brunch date that we had planned, as they came early just to try and get a table before I even knew they were showing up, making me wonder why I was friends with them even in the first place. Here's what happened. So I used to be friends with these two girls who I will call Noah and Catherine. One weekend, they got invited to go horseback riding, and they were talking about it in front of me, and I felt really left out because I love riding horses. Anyways, that's when they turned to me and say, hey, do you want to meet up with us for brunch after? And I was like, oh, where are you guys going? And they said they're going to Cracker Barrel. Now, I know on the weekend, the time they wanted to go to Cracker Barrel has a huge wait list. You can't reserve a table as it is first come, first serve. So I just say, sure, I'll happily meet you for brunch. They told me what time they expect to be there, and I know it's gonna be like half an hour to an hour late. So I'm still getting ready when I get a call from them saying, hey, where are you? We're here. Did you reserve a table? So I said to them, wait, you're there on time? All right, I'm on my way. I then jumped in my car and I head to Cracker Barrel. And when I get there, I don't see them waiting in line. So I call them and they say, oh yeah, we're actually already seated. So the hostess leads me back, and not only are they seated, they already have food. And I'm just like, wait a second, how did you guys get a table so soon? They then told me that they stole someone else's reservation. So basically they just put their name in and then waited for the first available table to be called. And they said they were that party so that they got seated immediately, and made me feel like crap for not being there an hour ahead of time to reserve a table for them, leaving me completely baffled at the way they acted. Okay, yeah, these are definitely not your friends. They literally went to this place early to find a spot and didn't even wait for you. And that's awful. Like, that really sucks. Like, you don't deserve that. And based on this story alone, I can see why you used to be friends with these girls. Because if this was like my friend group group, we would all wait for each other. We would communicate and be like, oh yeah, I'm on my way, or oh hey, I'm gonna be there in like 10 minutes, or something like that. You wouldn't just team up and be like, okay, we're gonna go early and then tell the original poster after the fact. Like they already have food in front of them, meaning that they've been waiting there a while. Like what's going on right now? That's so dumb. Not to mention the fact that they stole a reservation. Like what's that all about? They literally stole someone else's reservation to get the spot that they're going to, all the while not including you in this plan. Like what's happening right now? If anything, they probably just see you as a backup plan and someone they could just write off. And that really sucks. Like really sucks. So I really hope you found better friends than this, because these people do not sound like winners, as these are not the kind of people you would ever want to be friends with.
I ruined my life by pretending to be my twin brother in front of my girlfriend. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube with notifications on and follow on Instagram. Yesterday, I decided to prank my girlfriend by pretending to be my twin brother. This is very random, I know, but I've always wondered if I could fool her into thinking that I was him. It was time. So there I was, approaching my house and ringing my doorbell, completely in character. I was wearing torn denim and Converse sneakers, the complete opposite of what I normally wear, but exactly the style to match my brother. I was walking like him, talking like him, sounding like him, and even smelling like him. My girlfriend eventually opened the door and saw deepfake me standing there. Regardless of how well prepared I was to play my twin brother, the moment I locked eyes with my girlfriend, I expected her to see right through my facade. She stared at me, confused. At first, I wasn't sure if that was because she knew it was me, or because she was surprised to see that it's my brother. There was only one way to find out. I said hi and dropped the, "Hey, I was in the neighborhood" line. My girlfriend suddenly pulled me inside and slammed the door shut. Girlfriend, are you out of your mind showing up here like this? Me, I thought I'd visit. Girlfriend, I thought we agreed to stop seeing each other. Me, what do you mean? Girlfriend, what the heck do you mean? What do I mean? Whatever that was between us, it's over. Go home to your fiance. Me, enough. It's me, your boyfriend. Girlfriend, you don't know when to give up, do you? I showed her my ID. I've never seen so many mixed emotions flash across her face at that moment. At first, she tried to play it off like she was in on the act all along, and this whole interaction was nothing more than a cheating girlfriend narrative she fabricated on the spot just to mess with me. I wasted no time calling my brother and forcing a confession out of him. This MF admitted to seeing my girlfriend off and on behind my back for months. When that call ended, so did my relationship with both of them. So in the end, I pranked my girlfriend by pretending to be my twin brother and realized that the two of them were secretly pranking me by pretending to be people that I could trust. The betrayal from your girlfriend is horrible, and arguably just as bad, if not worse, is a betrayal from your own brother. I wonder what it was that drew the girlfriend to his twin brother that the OP himself didn't have. Obviously, they had a different style, probably a different personality, but if they're identical twins, and it sounds like they obviously are because you couldn't tell them apart, then looks, age, height, and anything that's purely physical isn't even a factor. But man, that is crushing, especially since she wasn't even honest when she got caught. She tried to play it off like she was joking the whole time. In a situation like that, it's probably pretty easy to tell that you know that they weren't joking. You could tell that they were serious, especially if this whole flash of emotions goes across their face. I've never really heard of a situation like this, but if you have, let me know down below in the comments. Today, I messed up by unnecessarily trying to ID someone at work. I am a white person who works at the register at a gas station in a tight-knit, predominantly African-American neighborhood. Yes, this is relevant to the story. Everyone knows everyone. Yesterday, while I was checking out a customer's items, my manager came up and let me know that someone under 21 had been sold cigarettes, so we would need to crack down on IDing anyone who looks under 40. The customer I was serving looked under 40, so I fell into my script without thinking and I asked for an ID. He got very upset, and it took me a couple of seconds to realize what I'd done. He was only buying soda and chips. I apologized profusely. I told him I didn't need an ID. I explained what happened. He didn't look pleased, which is understandable, but he seemed to accept my apology, paid, and left. This morning, I wake up to a WTF text from one of my friends. It was a screenshot of a Facebook post, which was a picture of me, my name, and the gas station I work at. The post accused me of racism, and it's gaining traction, with quite a few comments and a lot of likes. This will be an interesting day at work today. Was I the jerk? I can't really even see how this could possibly possibly be racism? It's not like he was asking anything that had to do with his race. The age doesn't have anything to do with his race either. Maybe he thought that he wouldn't have asked other people for their ID, but I mean, it was obviously a mistake. That's gotta suck being in a small town and everyone sees you as being that, because even if you try and explain yourself, it'll probably stick around for a while. People will look back at this post if this is something that a lot of people saw, or at least talk about this post. I mean, mistakes happen. This guy made a mistake. It's not even some sort of permanent mistake, something that's irreversible. He just asked the guy his ID and then said, oh, never mind. So I'm not sure what the big deal is here, but let me know what you think down below in the chat. Jerk or not a jerk, and what would you do if you were the one that this whole post was about? Am I the jerk for going to a work dinner alone because my fiance didn't want to change? It wasn't a work dinner per se, but a celebratory dinner with my colleagues my boss organized to congratulate/thank us for the past year. It was no black tie event, but it was at a nicer restaurant and with my boss, so there was a certain decorum expected. Partners were allowed, so I thought to bring my fiance and she agreed. Lately, my fiance has been dressing less conservatively, for lack of a better word, which hasn't really fazed me much because whatever. But I kind of expected her to dress a bit more appropriately given the setting and the company. When I picked her up though, she was dressed in these fishnet stockings, short shorts, and a blazer with no shirt/bra underneath. I reminded her that my boss will be there and where we were going, and she said that it didn't matter. I told her that it wasn't appropriate and that we still had time if she could find something else. If it matters, I was wearing jeans and a sweater. Long story short, she said she wasn't interested in changing, and if it bothered me so much, I should go alone. So I went alone. As expected, everyone else also dressed casually, but not too casual. Dinner lasted a couple of hours and then I returned home. My fiance was mad that I left without her and said that I was being controlling/wasted her time since she got all dressed up and put on makeup. I understand her disappointment, but it wasn't appropriate for where we were going and she didn't want to change. So, am I the jerk for going to a work dinner alone because my fiance didn't want to change? Maybe the fiance in the situation was resistant to change because she didn't know in advance how they were going to be dressing at this thing and she wanted to dress however she wanted to but didn't want to change at the last second. Maybe if she knew in advance that there was going to be a sort of dress expectation, she wouldn't have said yes to going in the first place. But that said, if it was a dinner for work and she's not willing to dress to match what the expectation is, then she's in a way indirectly asking the OP to be okay with the consequences. So by not doing something, she is doing something. And that is putting him in a position where he either has to feel embarrassed, unprofessional, or explain himself. At least that's how he sees it here. If your fiance asked you to change what you were wearing to go to a work dinner, would you do it? And let me know, jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for refusing to let a female student use the bathroom? Okay. So I know how the title makes me look like a major jerk, but hear me out. I'm a 46-year-old male and I work at a high school as a PE teacher, and recently I noticed that a student of mine, let's call her A, stopped participating in class, and her excuse would always be the same. Mr. Smith, me, I'm on my period. Can I please go to the bathroom? This carried on every PE lesson for 1 month when our unit was dancing, and I had to give each student a mark. At this point, student A was concerningly behind everyone in our unit, and I had nothing to grade her on, and I was getting increasingly annoyed, and up until this point, I had never told her no when she always asked to use the bathroom and would come back after 45 minutes. So once again, she asked if she could use the bathroom because she was on her period, and I just snapped and said, A, if you're on your period this often, multiple times in 2 months, then I honestly think you need medical help. I have to grade you. Come up and participate. Later that day, around 1700 hours, I was placed on temporary leave because I got complaints from A's parents, and A had also gotten her friends and their parents to complain. I was being called sexist and multiple other names by students' parents, and I was honestly so confused. And multiple of the students' parents threatened the principal to turn to social media or even enroll their girls in another school because of me, since they felt unsafe with a sexist teacher. So, am I the jerk for refusing to let a female student use the bathroom? And what should be my next action to regain the parents' respect? So, all of this could have easily been accomplished in retrospect by saying no, but not making a joke or a comment out of what she was doing in the bathroom. It sounds like that was the ultimate fuel to the fire. If it was the other way around and he just said, no, I need something to grade you on, so you need to participate, and then later on the school asked why, you could explain, oh, well, she leaves for 45 minutes every single class. But he kind of just put her on blast in front of everyone and said what he said about her needing medical help because of her medical condition. I kind of assumed that a lot of the responses would be the total opposite of that, but actually the top comment on this says, it is never okay to comment on a teenage girl's biological functions, true or untrue. And then later on updated the post to say, or anyone else's biological functions for that matter. So which side of this are you on, and is the OP a jerk or not? Let me know down below. Am I the jerk for how I reacted to my fiance surprising me with our dream house? I'm not sure if I'm the world's most ungrateful person right now or not so. My fiance and I are getting married soon. The plan was that once we got married, I would move in with him, and then when we were ready to start a family, we would buy a house together. I guess he changed his mind because he surprised me with our dream house. The house is beautiful, and if we had house hunted together, I think I would have fallen in love with it. However, I was so upset we wouldn't be able to pick our forever home together that I just started crying when he told me. I didn't know how to explain my reaction, and I could see I had upset him, so I asked him to take me home. When I got home, my family asked me what happened, and I explained. They were all very upset with me and said my reaction was bad and that I should have just been happy that he had bought us a house. They told me to call him and apologize. I didn't do it. I just went to sleep early. This happened on Sunday, and I finally called him yesterday. He sounded upset with me. I'm not sure if it's because of my reaction or because I never called or texted him sooner after what happened. So, am I the jerk for how I reacted to my fiance surprising me with our dream house? So the question that we probably know the answer to is he A, buying this house outright and this is a gift so she can live in this house for free forever, or B, strapping this mortgage to her for the next 30 years when she doesn't get any input on what she's paying a mortgage into? That's the big question, and it sounds pretty obvious that it's not the first one. I mean, it's kind of like giving someone the gift of massive responsibility without the joy of having them be excited about being able to participate in this. Sometimes what happens when you give people pets as gifts, for example, it'll work out really great. But in other cases, having a pet is a very personal thing, and having the person have no input or say on what that pet is or what type of pet that is, it can kind of, in some cases, take away the magic of even having that pet in the first place. And buying a house is a pretty big decision, like having a pet. In this case of the house, assuming the mortgage is 30 years, that's a long commitment. Someone else actually pointed out what's probably a better example than the pet one is when someone gives someone a car. You see this in videos on YouTube and you see this in movies and stuff, and there's a big ribbon on it, and a car won't last nearly as long as a house, but you still have to like the car, assuming you're the one that still has to pay for it. So what would you do if your fiance chose a house for the both of you to live in without consulting you? Let me know down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for not driving 12 miles to deliver food after knowing the customer purposely put the wrong address in? Besides my regular job, I do a part-time delivery job, DoorDash. This morning around 11, I get this order 2.7 miles away for $6. When I arrived there, the lady who opened the door said that she didn't order the food. I show her the address and she says, "The address is correct, but I didn't order this. That's not my name. I don't know anyone by this name either." I texted the customer's number, no response. I was waiting on the line to talk to someone from the Dasher support when I get this text from the customer saying that I'm at the wrong address. They send the new address. I look it up and it's 12 miles from where I was. So I text her and I say, I am not going to drive 12 more miles for $6. If I knew she lived that far, I would never have accepted the order. I offered to bring it back to Chick-fil-A so she can come pick it up. She then calls me saying I have to deliver it to her house because she already paid for the food. Her kids are waiting for lunch. It's not fair to them. I asked why she didn't check the address before confirming her order. She says she put the wrong address on purpose because the delivery fee was too much much. At this point, I knew she was a scammer, so I tell her I'm delivering it to the address that's on my app. She can talk to customer service about her order. I dropped it off at the address on my app and completed the order. Now she's blowing up my phone with mean texts from multiple numbers saying I am a jerk and I stole her food. Then she tried to leave a negative review after contacting customer service, but DoorDash removed it. I think she got what she deserved, but I'm also feeling bad for her kids. Am I the jerk here for not driving 12 miles to deliver food after the customer purposely put the wrong address in? The OP said it right. This customer is a straight up scammer. This is really a cruel thing that people do, and it sounds like it happens more and more because I see some of those videos online where delivery drivers will get all kinds of stuff like this happening from customers. I think it's really wrong to take advantage of people that are just trying to make a delivery and then you lie about the delivery drop zone because the delivery fee is too expensive so that the delivery driver can eat the entire cost of this whole thing? That's just so very selfish. I mean, in that case, if you're trying to save money, you could probably walk to some place closest to your house and not have to pay any delivery fee at all. So if you were the driver in this situation, what would you do? And let me know, jerk or not a jerk, down below. Today I cleaned my 13-year-old son's bedroom and I found my 31-year-old girlfriend's underwear in there. Don't forget to subscribe with notifications turned on and follow on Instagram for more. Let me start by saying she is not his mother. As any parent does, I tell my son to give me all of his dirty laundry, mostly so I don't have to touch it so that I can wash it for him. One day when my son was not home, I went into his bedroom and grabbed his dirty laundry. I noticed a balled up towel in the corner of his closet and I just grabbed the end of it, thinking it was just a towel. Nope. Out falls 2 of my girlfriend's recently worn / dirty underwear. I stand there, coming up with crazy scenarios in my head for a second, like, must have gotten caught in the towel when he was done showering, or maybe it got messed up in the clean laundry. Then the realization hits me that our laundry basket is in the bathroom where we shower. All I could say to my girlfriend was, we are about to have a weird conversation and I'm sorry. I pull out the underwear and I say, I found these in my son's room, and her jaw just drops. I don't know what else to say besides, at least we know he likes you. Now, it is a little weird and quiet around my house, and the worst part is I don't know how to bring it up to him. What should I do? So later on, after this post was out, there was actually an update, and in the update, he says, the decision has been made to sit him down tonight after dinner. I'm going to be short and sweet about it, tell him that I'll love him no matter what, and tell him why it wasn't okay to violate my girlfriend's privacy. Then take the opportunity to see if he wants to talk about anything, but not force him to. So, do you think this is a good way to go about talking to the son who has stolen your girlfriend's dirty underwear and kept them for himself? Man, this is strange. You always hear stories about those vending machines in Japan where this kind of stuff is for sale on demand, but it doesn't seem like it's really that common of a thing, but maybe it is. Maybe this is way more common than it seems, and this kind of thing is happening all the time. This dad just happened to catch his son in the act of stealing these underwear. Like many people are saying in response to this, they should probably just throw those dirty underwear away at this point. One of the comments that got a lot of upvotes on this said, my understanding is that DNA can circulate within a load of washing and still be detectable in forensic quantities after a wash. The source is that he's a lawyer who reads newspapers. Do with this information what you will. And apparently this is referring to a guy in New Zealand who was locked up for years on a wrongful conviction due to charges that had to do with a child in his home, based in significant part on the fact that the underwear had detectable traces of DNA in them as a result of clothes washing. So if I'm understanding that right, this guy was in jail or prison for years because the underwear had his DNA on it because they were washed in the same load of clothes. That does make sense, but it's also surprising at the same time. So anyway, let me know what you would do if you're in this situation down below. Am I the jerk for making my girlfriend pay for everything after she implied that she does? I'm a 29-year-old male and my girlfriend Maddie is 30 years old. We've been together for 3 years. We live together. Maddie is an anesthesiologist and I own my own landscape design company. Due to me working mornings and being home earlier, I do most of the shopping and cooking. We split all the other duties 50-50 and we pay 50-50 on all bills. I make solid money, but most of it is put back back into my business so I don't have as much spending money as Maddie. Maddie likes to think I'm some sort of trophy boyfriend. So here's phase 1 of the story. The first time we were out with her family, she's the pride of her family because her family never went to college, let alone medical school. Maddie says, OP does most of the housework, so I'm not overwhelmed when I get home. Her aunt said, Maddie, it's amazing. You snagged yourself a trophy boyfriend while working so many hours. Then Maddie's mom said, look at you finding a man who supports you. Maddie said, I'm glad I can support the both of us. In phase 2, she told her friends she was treating me to a vacation. Her friend said, wow, Maddie, sugar mama love out here. I told Maddie how uncomfortable it was that she told everyone she was buying the trip. Her response was that I was being ridiculous. And finally, phase 3. My parents asked me how we were enjoying the new place. We recently moved. Maddie started going on about how much more house it is and how she is thankful for my help and willingness to support her career. A couple of things about how supportive I am, how my job is tough on me. I don't find it that tough. And how she's thankful she's able to cover the house while I build my business. Afterwards, my parents called me to ask if everything was okay, if my business was struggling, and if Maddie was having to cover for us, then they could help out. I said that Maddie spent more on the down payment than I did, but in no way did she cover our house. I've brought this up to Maddie and she sees no problem. She says I should be glad to have a girlfriend who makes money and wants to splurge on me. So I haven't paid for a thing in the last 4 months. Date nights, tickets, groceries, Wi-Fi, gas, nothing. I stopped cooking, so now Maddie orders food for us. Whenever the bill shows up, I say, she's got it. Or whenever I need gas, I say, hey babe, can you get this one? I'll cook your favorite food later though. Maddie hasn't said anything, but I think she's getting annoyed. So last weekend it was me, her sister / brother-in-law and parents. When the bill showed up, the waiter gave it to me. I said, I'm actually the trophy boyfriend, so I don't pay for things, and handed the bill to Maddie. On the way home, she was being standoffish. All she said was, you didn't have to do that. I said I covered my half of the bills, paid for dates, bought her gifts, and don't like that she implies that she pays for everything. I said if she wants me to quit doing this, then she can tell everyone the truth or she can keep paying. So, am I the jerk for making my girlfriend pay for everything after she implied that she does? In this situation, it seems like neither the OP nor the girlfriend are really effectively communicating with one another. It doesn't really seem like Maddie understands the reason why the boyfriend would be frustrated, the OP, by what she's saying to people, and it doesn't seem like the OP understands why Maddie would be frustrated for having to pay for everything and that final comment that he made at the dinner, because in his mind, he's just living out the reality that she painted to the world. The way the OP sees it is, well, if you're going to paint it that way to everyone, then I might as well get the advantages of living that way. It's kind of like both people want the cake and to eat it too. The boyfriend wants to not have to pay for anything if everyone's going to think that he doesn't pay for anything, and the girlfriend wants to be able to say that she's spoiling him but not actually pay for everything. Probably the best comment in response to this says, I think it's kind of funny you started giving her a taste of her own medicine, OP. If she wants to brag about paying for everything, then yeah, it makes sense that you hold her to that. What's worrying though was that it had to get to the point that when you try to talk to her about it like adults, she didn't see the issue, because it's good for you to have a partner that splurges on you. It might have been a better move to put the problem into simpler words by saying, I don't have a problem with being spoiled. I have a problem with being called lazy all the time by you. Or calling me a trophy boyfriend hurts my pride, hurts my feelings, etc. and I want you to stop. I love you, but I don't like this thing that you are doing. I think that talk should have happened before you started doing anything to get back at her, but that's not to say it's too late to have that talk now. I think you both owe each other an apology. I mean, it definitely seems like on both ends there is this brewing passive aggressiveness because neither one is completely communicating to the other their feelings in a simple, complete way, and that's what's creating this whole retribution style of behavior on the part of the OP. But let me know what you would do if your fiance started telling everyone the same thing that she told the OP here, and let me know, jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for reporting a server at a coffee shop over posting a TikTok? This may sound implausible, but the setting was in a coffee shop in a small town in America where most people know each other, so it's really not that out of the ordinary. ordinary. There's this nice indie cafe a few blocks away from my house, which I go to a couple of times weekly, and all the servers know me. And I'm a 28-year-old male for the record. This month, I had my mom with me, her visiting from the US for the first time. My mom spent all of her life in a Southeast Asian country. Her English is not good. Anyway, I go to work one day last week, and my mom wanders over to the cafe. I get home that night and ask my mom how her trip to the cafe was. She says it's nice, told me what she got, and oops, I forget that she doesn't know about tipping here. Where she lives, there's a large service charge included, so you don't really tip in eateries, and definitely not in small ones. This was completely my bad and entirely my fault for forgetting to inform her. I ask her which server. She describes someone I know as Jane, who's a 25-ish-year-old female. I go to the cafe the next day the minute it opens. I see that Jane is working, and I apologize profusely. I explain my mom doesn't know about tipping, and I gave her a 70% tip. The bill came out to around $10, so it wasn't really breaking the bank. She's understandably slightly cool, but I apologize to the best of my ability. I thought that was that. No. 2 days later, a colleague texts me a link to a TikTok. Jane apparently has a sizable TikTok following where she talks about being a barista, her customers, and how to make X or Y drink. Nice stuff, except a video from the day that my mom visited where Jane videoed the backside of her head, made jokes about people coming over from BFE and not tipping because it's a man-eat-dog world out there. Quietly barked on video. She didn't seem to notice it was her. There were lots of shares and likes and comments. Again, our town is 99% white. Jane wouldn't really be encountering many foreigners at all. It's not a no-tip epidemic. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, went over the next day and politely asked her to take it down. She said no. It's her right, and it was her degrading experience. The manager comes over, Jane tells the tipping part, and that she made a video out of desperation and she wouldn't take it down. I tell the manager that I came back, apologized, tipped her 70% and explained that my mom didn't know. I showed her the TikTok and the manager's face changes. She doesn't discipline Jane in front of me, but from what I hear, she was let go immediately. Now her mother is posting her own and my Facebook, as well as hinting on the community Facebook group about certain people not respecting servers and causing Jane to be fired. Several people, many who don't know the whole story, agreeing with her and even discussing setting up a collection. Almost all believe that I am the jerk here, and there is no mention of the TikTok at all. Am I the jerk here? Should I have dragged my 70-year-old mother in to apologize to Jane? What exactly can I do now? So it sounds like this TikTok she made was really bigoted to begin with. I mean, she's pointing out things about, I guess, trying to poke fun of where she's from, and she's bringing up this whole dog thing. It's hard to imagine that she would do this after she had already been given a 70% tip, but I guess the assumption is that she already made this video before he came in and gave her the tip, I guess the night before. We're going by what the OP says here, but somehow I think that maybe what might have actually happened is that he found out about this whole not tipping thing because of the TikTok, then went in, then gave the tip, and then she didn't take it down. I mean, that would make a little bit more sense. Both could technically be true, and we have no reason to doubt what the OP is saying, but that would just make more sense. Since I've never really heard of anyone going into a place, finding the person who served their mother the day before, and then giving them the tip. I mean, it's possible, but there's a little bit more information in the update, and the OP says on messages about our ethnicity / what spurred the dog comments, we are full Koreans, and my late dad and mom both settled very young in a Southeast Asian country during unrest in our home country. I grew up there too. We all look fully Asian. I have a noticeable not American accent. My mom's English is quite weak, so the dog comment is definitely about that, I'm sure. So let me know what you would do if you're in this situation, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for bluntly telling a woman that it's dangerous to put essential oils in sensitive areas? My uncle's new girlfriend came to family dinner the other night, and it was the first time anyone in my family met her. She is super into essential oils, which is very eye-roll inducing for me, but I didn't say anything about it or show that I found it annoying at first. I bit my tongue while she went on about putting them in her water. You should not be ingesting essential oils, and rubbing them on pressure points, trying to convince my mom to buy some. But then she brought up that they can be super good for yeast infections infections. I looked at her horrified and asked, "You mean you're putting them down there?" And she said, "Yes. You just insert a few drops and it clears up right away." I told her this was very dangerous and could cause chemical burns as well as throwing off your pH down there and potentially causing other infections. She said, "Oh no, you don't have to worry about that. They're all natural." To which I replied, "So is poison ivy, but I wouldn't suggest shoving it up your beaver." She just looked shocked. My sister laughed and my aunt said, "Well, she has a point." But other family members said that it was rude and crass, which I didn't think so because she's the one who started talking about yeast infections at a family dinner, certainly saying the word beaver is less crass than that. So, am I the jerk for bluntly telling a woman that it's dangerous to put essential oils in her sensitive areas? So, maybe some of you guys know the science behind where essential oils should go or where they should not go. It sounds like the argument being made, among other things, is that it'll change the pH of those areas that are sensitive to pH. Like, I know a lot of parts of your body have very specific pHs they should be at in order to be working properly. But for those of you that know about this, let me know. Whether or not the science is true, if the OP didn't believe it was true and thought that this woman was going to hurt people by spreading this information, then you kind of have an imperative to say something, especially if the mom is about to buy these oils. So let me know if you've ever seen a situation like this, whether it be with oils or something else, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. A Karen comes into the restaurant that my parents own and claims that she is the owner's wife. I'm an 18-year-old male. My parents own a little restaurant where we sell snacks, cakes, candies, and various fast foods. It was named after my grandparents, so let's just call it Joe's. Whenever I get free time, I usually hang out there with my friends to have something, and I do pay, which also encourages my friends to pay up too, which I earn by working at Joe's, especially on the weekends, as it becomes a bit busy then, like serving people or taking orders from them. And yes, we do have employees. My dad allows me to keep the tip money which customers give after eating, and anyways, my dad also pays me for the hours I work. Very few of the regular customers know that I am the son of the owner, and my parents, the owners, also work there themselves, but people often tend to think of them as employees. One day, on a weekend, a woman, I don't know, she might be in her 30s or 40s, entered with her bratty kid, who I suppose was around 13 years old or so. Now, as it was a weekend, it was a bit busy. She was told to sit on one of the waiting chairs. Around 20 minutes or so later, a table was ready for her. She sat there, and I went to ask her for her orders. Now, I don't exactly remember what she ordered, but it might have been a sandwich or something, and I went to the kitchen to give her the order. Now, I was just standing near the register to look for someone if they needed anything, and her bratty kid was running around screaming, running into people, stepping on people's feet, and even touching their food. The mother, as usual, didn't seem to care and was now on her phone. Now, I was very annoyed by this, and I held the kid by his hand while he was running. I told him not to run around in a pretty harsh voice, and the kid started crying and ran back to his mother. His mother was fuming because of this and came to me stomping, and this is how the conversation went down. The entitled mother said, "How dare you touch my child?" Me, he was running around and was annoying other people. Didn't you see? He was touching their food. Entitled mother, "Well, he's a child. He can do whatever he wants to do." Me, "Well, yeah, but not in my supervision." Entitled mother, "Do you even know who I am?" Me thinking, here we go again. I knew what was going to happen, so I thought of playing along. Me, "No, ma'am, I don't." Entitled mother, "Well, then you should know I am the wife of the owner, and you have made a huge mistake, and I will make sure your face will never be seen here again because you're getting fired." Me thinking in my mind, I thought she would go for a sister or a friend, but she went for a wife, and now we're gonna have some fun. "Ma'am, I don't think you even know his..." She cuts me off. Entitled mother says, "His name is..." Insert my dad's name here. I was kind of shocked that she knows my dad's name. Very few people knew that anyway. Me, "Ma'am, I'm very sorry I acted rude towards your son, but please, don't get me fired. It's the only job that I have." Entitled mother, "Well, you should have thought about that before you touched my son." Me, "But ma'am, he was annoyed..." She cut me off again. "Shut
shut up!
She went to the register and asked for the manager. My dad came out and talked to her about what happened.
Your employee has been harassing my son! I want him fired now!
My dad looked at me and said, I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but I can't just fire him without any reason. The entitled mother said,
Do you even know who you're talking to? I'm the wife of the owner of Joe's, and I can't stand the employee here.
My dad got the biggest grin on his face.
Why are you laughing? I'm serious!
Dad says, I'm telling you, again, I'm sorry for the inconvenience caused. Would you like to have a refund? The entitled mother went into total rage mode and said,
You know what? I'm calling my husband and complaining about you and your employee. I will get both of you fired.
Now, the way that she got my dad's phone number is because we had it on a board outside as we gave home delivery so that people would order on call and you would get it dropped off. So she called that phone number and my dad's phone rang. Karen, the entitled mother, was shocked. He picked up the phone and said, Hello, this is the owner of Joe's. How can I help you? Karen's face went red to complete white, like if blood was drained from her. He then said, Yes, I am the owner and the manager of Joe's, and you are in no way my wife, and the employee you want to be fired is my son. She looked at me and I just could not hold back my laughter anymore. And just then, her order was ready. But until then, she was already embarrassed enough with the whole time her kid crying in the background. She dragged her kid crying by the arm, didn't even take the order, and we still have a great laugh about it to this day. Man, I can't believe how long the OP let this go on before actually saying anything. And in fact, he didn't really say anything at all. The only reason that the entitled mom in this case ended up finding out that he was the owner's son and she was not the owner's wife was because she called the number outside and talked to the owner directly. It is pretty surprising that she went straight for the wife role instead of all the other roles that the OP thought she might have gone for, a sister or a friend or something. She just straight up said that she's the owner's wife. The most funny comment said, I wouldn't have been able to resist shouting something to the effect of, Mom, you finally came home, and then tried hugging her while faking tears of joy. And somebody followed this up by saying, that would be epic and hilarious, and also say, and I have a little brother. Is he a half brother or were you pregnant by dad when you left? The bigger a scene is made, the better. That's when people start pulling out their phones and recording the whole thing. If you had to rate this entitlement level 1 out of 10, let me know what you would rate this down below in the comments. A Karen yells at me in a Walmart over apple juice. A few days ago, my mom had to go to Walmart to pick up a prescription and grab a few groceries. She hates Walmart, so we always try to hurry. While she waited in line for the prescription, my brother and I went to go look for the few groceries that we need. We reach the grocery part of the store and start shopping. When we finally go down to the drinks, we see that there are 2 gallons of apple juice left. I go to grab them when a woman comes up. She sees me take them, but I turn around and ask her if she was also coming to get apple juice. She says yes, so I offer her one of them and we can take the other. I don't know how or why she escalated this so fast, but she tells me to give her both of them because she wants them. I tell her again that I'll give her one of them and we will take the other. She is not happy with this and starts demanding that I give her both again. I tell her flat out no. My brother isn't saying anything because he's not good with confrontation and just wanted to get apple juice. I say, ma'am, do you want this one or not? Karen says,
just give me both. How hard is that to understand? I want them both.
So no then.
Yes, just give me them.
As she starts to progress into a scene, my brother starts looking anxious, but he chimes in and says, look, we're just trying to be nice. Karen says,
I don't care. Just give them to me. You're wasting my time.
I eventually get tired of this and out of spite, put both of them in our cart. I turn around and motion for my brother to follow. She starts yelling, but we just head to the front. It was seriously the stupidest thing ever. So the OP and the brother got there first. Could have easily just taken both of them without saying anything. They offer to give one of them to this lady, and the lady just straight up starts yelling at them. So she wanted 100% of the apple juice, and she ended up getting 100% of nothing. I'm surprised actually that the Karen didn't end up running after the OP and the brother to try and do something further, but it sounds like they were able to just walk away without having any issues beyond that. Let me know what you would rate the entitlement level in this one 1 out of 10 down below. An entitled parent demands college refund money for Disney World. So all this first information is important to understand the rest of the story. I work at a financial aid office for a local private university, and I've only been here for a little over 2 months. It's a stressful job because I'm forced to learn things about the financial aid process I never thought I would need to know, such as how FAFSA forms are processed. The FAFSA is a critical form that students fill out to see how much money you qualify for to pay for your college. A lot of the time, this means the students who have loans, grants, scholarships may get a refund check. These checks can vary depending on a variety of things like how much you qualify for and how much a school takes for tuition, classes, room, board, and other expenses. Sometimes students will get thousands of dollars in refund money. For anyone who plans to get a refund, be sure to never discuss how you're going to use it outside of class requirements, because it's a policy to refuse to disperse funds if knowingly used for things outside of school use. Again, this is all important to understand the story. So now, on to the story. So my job as a financial aid assistant is to be a basic office aide, but with the knowledge of a financial aid counselor. Yesterday, a young woman with her entitled dad come into the office. Before I could greet them, the man says,
"Where is the person that's holding my kid's money hostage?"
I was terrified because this man was larger than me and angry. I wanted to cry by the mere loudness of his voice. I managed to say, "Sir, I can see if anyone's available to talk." And he began barking at me about how this is a terrible university and how dare they keep his daughter's money like this. It's a small office, and with my supervisor, who is the director of financial aid, the DFA, and the assistant director, the AD, and a student aide, we're all females. I turn to the open doorway and I see the assistant director looking unimpressed. "I can talk to you and your daughter about her money. Side note, if you're looking for a refund, call the billing department first, not the financial aid office, as we don't really control how it's dispersed." The entitled dad and the girl went into the office, but the door was kept open, so I heard everything that was said. If I wasn't allowed to record things due to privacy reasons, I would have recorded this exchange. The assistant director said, "So, how can I help you? What's going on?" Entitled dad:
"My daughter's refund was supposed to be released by the end of the week. It's Wednesday and it's not in her account."
"Sir, please calm down."
"No, she needs her money because we need it for our trip."
Daughter: "Dad, I'm not going on a trip." Entitled dad:
"Yes, you are. Remember, we're going to Disney World."
Assistant director smirks knowingly. "So, you're using your refund to pay for a trip outside of school needs." Daughter: "No, I'm not." Dad:
"Yes, she is. She promised to pay the deposit with that money and we need it now."
Assistant director: "Sir, I must inform you that I cannot allow these funds to be released, as you have just told me that your daughter will be using them outside of school use. This is not allowed."
"What? It's her money and she can do whatever she wants with that money."
Assistant director: "You can only use this money for school-related purchases. This is considered an improper use of funds, which is considered fraud." The OP clarifies here, you can use your refund money however you want, but you should never tell the financial aid office your vacation plans and be a total jerk about it. Most people in financial aid don't care how you spend your refund in general. So, I was still at my desk trying to look like I wasn't hearing this, but this man had a meltdown. I swear I learned more swear words from this guy than in my entire 27 years of life. The girl was also upset, but as she wouldn't be getting her money, I kept my head down as they left the office. I soon got up and checked on my assistant director. "Hey, are you okay?" She nodded, but she clearly needed a few minutes to herself. I don't blame her. That guy was very intimidating, and I don't think it'll be the last we hear of him anytime soon. Man, it sounds like they might have actually been able to help them if they didn't just clearly say that they were going to use all this money on Disneyland. And it's also kind of weird. I mean, they're going to take the daughter's money to pay for the trip for everyone else. I kind of got the vibe that they just made that decision for her. But either way, regardless of who made the decision, the fact that the dad is just straight up telling the office that they need the money for Disneyland is such a bad idea. Even if it wasn't against the policy, why would you even say that? What does it matter what the money is for? In this case, it seems like it gave the financial aid assistant director an easy out to not have to deal with this situation at all. They seem to think that the dad is going to keep coming back, but there's a chance he might be afraid of anything that has to do with fraud, because the assistant director did say that this would be considered fraud, and that's a pretty big deal in any case. So let me know what you would do if you were in this situation, and rate this one 1 out of 10 down below. Entitled woman's kids steal our stuff and refuse to give it back. So there was an Ethiopian woman with 3 kids, and we lived in a collection of units, not apartments, but sort of separate houses, but joined too. This woman's kids would always somehow get into our house, either one way or another. One day, I even remember my mom leaving the garage door open by a sliver, and those kids wriggled their way through the garage door, then entered our house and went straight to my bedroom. Then they steal stuff. Like one day, they stole my dad's 20 Aussie buck sunnies. Then they stole a 30 buck watch I owned, and a $50 pair of my mom's best shoes, and a lot more. They also raided our neighbor's garden and stole multiple plants, which also cost money. And they throw mud onto their house. But that's not the worst part. I mean, they don't know any better, so we let the kids go. But we confronted the mother, who's a single mom, and her reply was, "Oh, we'll give them back." And us, being naive, we accepted and went back to our house. A few weeks later, we go ask again, but yet again, they give the same response. To this day, I dread what we did, but we brushed it off. And it's not like the Aussie police would do anything, considering the value of the stuff they stole, and they were renters too. I didn't know what to do after this point, and I would have reported them to the landlord and get them a warning, but my second thought said that would be too cruel. And just before we went to ask again, sternly this time, they left with the stuff they stole. A message to the kid's mother: if you're reading this, you should have parented your kids. You're lucky I didn't report you. Whenever I hear about stories like this, the first thing I could think is maybe that family was just really in need. And maybe they didn't need these specific items, but they were selling them or doing something to get by. The hard part becomes when you have both families in need. I mean, it sounds like neither one of these families was exactly a rich family, and both of them are just doing what they have to in order to get by. But obviously that doesn't mean that it's okay to just let people steal things from you. It seems like the OP's biggest regret was that they were too naive and believed when this other family told them that they would give their stuff back. I mean, that is weird. I mean, they shouldn't have the stuff for any period of time. I mean, what was the reason behind it? That they were going to use it and then give it back to them? The kids broke into the house, stole what they stole, they were going to use it, and then the OP said, okay, sure, just give it to me later. Let me know what you would do if this was your house and you had these things taken and then the family took off, moving somewhere else. In this malicious compliance story, sorry, I deleted all the files you told me to delete. My job was to design and write software prototypes for individual high-value customers. If they liked it well enough, then a real software engineer team would build the real product. Occasionally, I would run the prototype for a few months while the customer evaluated if they wanted to buy the real project. Now, these prototypes are not a lot of code, but they do run with a lot of data. Even compressed, it can be a terabyte or more. Having done this for years, I've accumulated a small disk farm of past projects, which can be very useful when a customer asks for something just like we did last year, but with a small change or two. The company resisted buying hard drives for this, but it saves me so much time. I ended up buying 1 or 2 a year myself until I accumulated about 10 of these. Figure over $1,000 worth of external drives. Then, unexpectedly, management changes. New management thinks they can replace old software guy with a cheaper new software grad, and I am laid off with 2 weeks to train my replacement. Yes, it's blatant age discrimination, but impossible to fight, so I just went for a graceful transition to my next job. Except that I have $1,000 of personal disk drives with old customer data on them. The company insists that no employees may take any company data off the premises and all files must be deleted. I don't want to just leave the drives of the company, but they insist I must delete all data before taking them home. So I offer option 1, they can buy them from me, or option 2, I will eventually use them for something else, but I can leave the data on them in case someone needs it. Not good enough. The new manager insists that I must delete all data and all backups before I remove the drives. Okay, so that's what I do. 6 months later, I get a series of desperate phone calls. The new software grad has been unable to build any new prototypes. Old customers are calling to get old prototypes updated, and the new software grad has no idea how to do that. The executive vice president is calling me to ask what it would take to bring me back to do my old job. Sorry, I got a new job now, and even if I didn't, I cannot just modify the old prototype because you insisted I delete all old copies of it. If I did want to modify it, I'd first have to recreate it from scratch. The code still exists in their source control, but the data is the heart of the prototypes, and that old series of 6 months apart we collected is gone for good no matter what. Sorry, you screwed yourselves exactly like I told you would happen. I hope whatever you saved by hiring a new graduate to replace an actual experienced programmer was worth it. Was I the jerk? Somehow I thought for sure this was going to lead up to him saying that he actually did keep these hard drives somewhere, and then when they called him 6 months later, he was going to be able to sell them back to them for a bunch of money, but it sounds like he actually just followed exactly what they wanted him to do. But really, it shows that the people running the company didn't really understand what had value and what didn't have value, because why wouldn't they, first of all, just pay for the hard drive so they could host it themselves, and secondly, ask for the data to be transferred before they let him go? It just doesn't make sense, and I think the reason for that is because the company probably didn't understand how this worked, especially if it's with new management. It's like old management's bad decisions compiling with new management's bad decisions equals this epic opportunity for malicious compliance where he did exactly what they asked him to do. Let me know what you would do if you're in a situation like this down below. The Karen of my building told me her key card isn't working. She demanded that I fix her key card, so I did. This happened maybe 5 minutes ago, and I think it is hilarious. I'm the facility manager for my building. Everything that happens and goes wrong is my responsibility, so I make sure everything runs smoothly. My boss had made it clear, it's my building, and I was hired to not only keep people in line, but run everything. I'm not a jerk, but I hold people accountable, forcibly but politely. There was no facility manager for a long time before I came along, and both clients and employees ran amok with no order. In the 4 months I've been here, my boss has praised my performance and has gone to bat for me countless times. She is the best boss I've ever had. I've got a firm but fair approach, and my reputation reflects that. So there's a Karen in the building, and trust me, the name stereotype applies. She's a counselor for family services, has nothing to do with our group. She likes to complain about everything and gives my boss a headache almost daily. She shares an office with another woman who's unfortunately picking up on her Karen tendencies, making her a Karen in training. I've been doing a key card audit all week, and I knew to leave Karen's key card alone because she's the only Karen in the building, so her name stands out. I am missing 75 key cards, lots of former employees having all door access, dating all the way back to 2015. I can't have that, so I deleted a lot of them, especially if it had a wacky name or just a room number. However, I did delete Kit's card information because it wasn't under her name. She just came to tell me her key card wasn't working, and Karen happened to be passing by and overheard it. I went and fixed Kit's key card, and we went to go check to see if it worked or not. We found Karen outside the office waiting, complaining to my boss that her key card didn't work either. Karen wandered away, and my boss rolled her eyes, and I smiled and told her I would take care of it. After checking to make sure Kit's key card actually worked, I went downstairs to check the system, looked up Karen, and wouldn't you know it, her key card was completely fine. In fact, it showed that she had a master key card. So I changed all of her permissions and limited her back to just her room only. I went upstairs and got my boss's attention because her office is next door to the ladies, and I mouthed, "Listen," and pointed. I opened their door and was all, "Hey Karen, I went and checked your key card in the system. Everything is good to go. In fact, it said you had a master key to the building, and per the company orders, since you're not a contractor or an employee here, I can't give you that access. So I had to revoke your status to just this room only. Can't have you bugging people on official business, wink. Thanks for bringing your key card to my attention." She started to object that she needed the master key card because X, Y, and Z, and I said, "Yeah, sorry, maybe before, but I'm the faculty manager, so you don't need access to everything except this office, and if you do, it's outside your pay grade, so you have to come and get me, okay? Cool, thanks, bye." And just then, the door closed on her mid-sentence. My boss was quietly laughing hard in her office and gave me an air high five. So all in all, a Karen complained that her key card didn't work when it absolutely did. In fact, she had master key access, and had she not said anything, she would still still have it, but she made me check and now I revoked her status completely to just her room only. So I wonder what exactly this Karen was using her master key access to do. I mean, was she snooping around the building, setting up things, going here and there whenever she pleased? I'm sure there's all sorts of stuff you could get up to if you could get into any single room in the entire building, but I wonder what it was exactly that she was doing. I mean, she obviously knew that she had master key card access because of the way that she responded to him at the end. So if she knew she had it and she knew she wanted it, why would she risk turning in the key card to be fixed? That's a weird set of decision making there, but let me know what you would do if you were in this situation down below. In this malicious compliance story, reconsider working here if I want to take a honeymoon. Okay. I had a manager who hated reading emails and would miss important issues/meetings because of it. I even suggested text-to-speech to make it less unpleasant, but he told me off. He spent a lot of time playing golf with clients and was mostly inaccessible. It got to the point where most of the team CC'd me. I was next on the totem pole, so I would grant approvals for stuff like expense reports and help out on projects my manager was supposed to work on. When I was getting married, I requested 3 weeks off for my honeymoon. Everyone knew I was getting married. My manager even congratulated me on the engagement when it happened. I had 5 weeks vacation accumulated, and I didn't think it would be a big deal, especially since I was requesting it nearly 8 weeks in advance. Then a vacation request denied email comes in from our time off system. I emailed the manager following up, left voicemails, and after a week, he finally replied to an email and said,
"Look, we need dedicated people, and if you think you can take 3 weeks off for a vacation, you need to reconsider your position here."
Keep in mind, my request stated vacation request for honeymoon. I replied with, "No consideration needed. My last day will be in 3 weeks. Let me know about transitioning duties." I forward this to my HR, CCing the manager, and HR sets up my exit interview, but HR tells my manager to set up transition for my responsibilities. During my notice period, I even replied all to the email twice asking about transition plans since I didn't get any transition plan. I tell my team, they ask the manager what to do with my duties, and my manager says he'll think about it but doesn't do anything nor email anything out. 4 weeks later, I get a call from my old boss saying, "Are you planning on coming in this week?" Why would I? "Because you work for me." Not as of last week. "Stop messing around and get your butt in the office." I told you my last day when you denied my vacation request. "Well, how about giving proper notice on transitions?" HR asked you to develop a transition plan and to attend my exit interview. It's not my fault you don't read all your emails. So I hang up on him and block his number, but screenshot the call log and send it to the HR contact with an innocent, "Should I be worried? My old manager still thinks I work for him." Here's the fallout. Things went from bad to worse for my old manager. Apparently, I was doing most of his managerial duties, so he actually had to try and get stuff done himself. He also got into some legal issues. Those client golf outings, he played golf, but not with clients. That made his termination with cause, so no severance for him. I ended up at a competitor with a nice bump in pay. I wanted to start after my honeymoon, but the new company really wanted my help on a pitch. I joined for several weeks, reworking 1/3 of the pitch, and then went on my honeymoon for 3 weeks. They paid me for the entire time off. That garnered a lot of goodwill from both me and my wife. I only left the company because the missus and I moved cross country and they didn't have remote positions back then. So basically the boss was just totally relying on the OP to do a lot of his job and just playing golf. That is pretty wild. I wonder how long he was able to get away with doing that when he wasn't even playing golf with clients. And the fact that he was so inaccessible, he probably just got so comfortable in this type of lifestyle that nobody could reach him because he was just chilling all the time. I'm guessing the boss didn't read it or fully see it or understand it, but it seemed pretty clear when the OP said, "No consideration needed. Here's my last day in 3 weeks." It's kind of crazy that he had no idea that the OP was leaving at all when all of this back and forth between him and the OP and HR and the OP and presumably HR and him all took place. So let me know what you would do if you're in this situation down below. In this malicious compliance story, my ex-boyfriend insists I play a game he assumes he's better at. I complied. A few years ago when I was in grad school, I dated a man who was several years older than me who had just finished his master's at the same school. Completely different program, but both in the realm of STEM, and started a company based on that work. He seemed to have a chip on his shoulder about the fact that he went back to school in his late 20s and the fact that I was in a PhD program. I need to emphasize, I did not think I was better or smarter than him in any way. And I thought and still think he is incredibly smart and his company does fascinating work, but still, he projected this inferiority complex on me, and it was one of the many things that soured our relationship. He was obsessed with feeling smarter than me and bringing me down a peg. The relationship ran its course within a year and the breakup was messy, but he insisted on remaining friends despite a lot of obvious tension between us. One day, he asked me to help him pick up a moving truck he needed for work, and I agreed. But when I got in the car, we were kind of quiet for a couple of minutes, so I pulled out my phone and finished the Sudoku game I had in my browser. For some context, I am incredibly good at Sudoku relative to most people. This is because I obsessively solved Sudoku puzzles as a kid and just had a big book of them to solve on long bus rides to school, and it's still my go-to game to play while waiting in line, pooping, etc. I don't really correlate this with intelligence. My brain is just trained to recognize the patterns, and solving them is soothing to me. He looked over and saw I was playing and asked what app I played on. I said I just play on a certain website I like, and when he asked why I don't use a Sudoku app, I tried to be as neutral as possible in my response and said that the website had a nice spread of difficulty and that every app I've tried had either been too easy or too hard. Admittedly, it's almost always too easy, but because of the aforementioned inferiority complex, I was hedging this on purpose. He had a kind of "oh really" response and insisted I try the app he has on his phone because he was sure I would find it hard. So I maliciously complied. I opened the hardest setting of the puzzle in his app and solved it in about a minute, beating the record on his phone by at least a minute and a half. I showed it to him and he seemed alarmed and basically said that I got lucky. So I played several more times so that my times flooded the fastest times list until his were all gone. His shock and frustration at this was satisfying on its own. But many months later, when I had long forgotten about it, he randomly sent me a screenshot of his puzzle in that app with a faster time, except it was for the easiest puzzle setting. So of course, to be petty, I immediately downloaded the app, played it on the easiest setting, and beat his time by a significant margin and sent him a screenshot back. Was this mean? Maybe. Was it satisfying? Yes. Was I the jerk? You decide. Did he think that the OP wouldn't notice that it was on the easiest setting? I mean, that's got to be the most obvious thing that you wouldn't assume you could get away with. And I wonder what it is exactly that makes him have such an inferiority complex when it comes to winning games specifically against his girlfriend or his former girlfriend. That sounds like there's something deep rooted that goes way beyond this story, but whatever it is, it led to this moment where he just randomly challenges her to a Sudoku match to see who could get the best score. I kind of wish there was an update to see what his response was after she responded back with beating the score by a huge margin. So let me know what you would do if you're in this situation. Would you keep trying to challenge the ex, or would you just let it be? My dad is dating my sister's close friend. I'm a 19-year-old male and I have a twin sister who's 19 years old as well. Our dad is 38 years old. I found out early in the month that my dad, who's been separated from my mom since the end of summer, has been dating my sister's friend Bree, who's 20 years old. It was weird to find out that they were dating, but I told them they had to tell my sister or I would. And I was really hoping they'd hold up their side of the deal because I have no idea how to tell my sister about this. But they didn't. Every time they said they were going to, they didn't, for whatever reason. So now I have to tell my sister. I can't keep a secret from her longer than this. But now I have reasons to believe they're expecting, but I'm not 100% sure. Should I mention this to my sister as well, or keep it out? It's something that obviously time will reveal anyway, so I don't know if it's worth it to upset her more with something I don't know is true. So should I tell my sister our dad is dating her friend? Fast forwarding into the future, there's actually an update which says, I just did it. I told my sister. She was upset. She started crying. I think at first she was most upset because her friend lied to her a lot to keep this relationship a secret, daily lying. So she was really upset about that. Then the weirdness of it all set in and she got really upset. She asked me if we should tell our mom, and I really don't know. I don't know what the right move is here, but I guess I'm glad my sister knows now so we can figure it out together. My sister hasn't spoken to either one of them, my dad or her friend. She just blocked both their numbers and I did the same. She was mad at me for not telling her right away, but she understood that I wanted them to be the ones to tell her. To all the people that said it was none of my business to know or none of my business to tell her, you're morons. It doesn't matter if you're 18 or 50 years old. If your parent is dating one of your friends, you should know about it. I don't know what we're going to do about my mom. I don't think she expected him to be dating someone so soon since they were married for so long and didn't break up that long ago and haven't even officially started the divorce papers. Should we tell our mom that our dad is dating my sister's friend? So the dad is basically twice the age of the sister's friend, Bree. He's almost 40 and she's 20 years old. And if they really are expecting a baby, if she's already pregnant, that's going to be out there very quickly. And I think the one who might end up getting hurt the most out of all of this is maybe going to be the mom. I mean, she was married to this guy for what they say is a long time. We don't know exactly how long, but that's got to be pretty hurtful that the first person that you go off with is your own child's friend. I mean, that's probably someone that the mom actually knows directly. I mean, the brother, the OP, he may not have any reason to think that they're expecting a baby. I mean, he might just be saying that based on a feeling or a hunch or something. But if that does turn out to be true, this whole situation gets a whole lot more complicated, particularly in terms of his relationship with his kids, because it sounds like neither one of them are okay with it at all. And if he's going to have a baby with this friend, Bree, then this is not going to be something that just disappears. I think here it's a no-brainer just to tell the mom because she's going to be blindsided by all of this, which will make this a whole lot worse. But let me know what you would do if you were in this situation down below. My boyfriend knew I was a dancer before we started dating, but now he uses it against me. I'm a 22-year-old female and he is a 24-year-old male. I always tell people that I'm a dancer right away because I know most people don't want to date someone in this industry. My boyfriend was well aware of this and still chose to pursue me. He was different from all the other people that wanted me because I knew he was genuinely interested and respected me. It was like a breath of fresh air. We've been dating for over a year now. Lately, he's been nagging me about my job, what I choose to spend my money on, my body, and he's obsessed with my past because he found old posts I made about wanting a girlfriend. He knows that I'm bi. He thinks that I'm dumb because I've been dancing since I was 18 and he's graduated college, yet I make more money than him. I got called a clown because I spent a rack on getting my hair dyed because I went to a 5-star salon. And my hair took all day to dye and it had many processes. I made the money back the next day. It's obvious that my boyfriend is losing respect for me now. And when I bring it up to him, he says it's not like that and I'm the woman of his dreams. I'm used to people only wanting me for my body and that's it. It's hard for me to find friends for this exact reason. My boyfriend saw me for who I really am, a soft person who likes to be cuddled and watch cartoons, and a big nerd. Now, I feel like he doesn't see me for who I am anymore and chooses to judge me for my lifestyle like everyone else. It breaks my heart because I wanted to marry this man and now he degrades me because I'm dirty and he can't stop thinking about, quote, all the hands that touch me. He doesn't make love to me anymore but treats me like a porn star and does the deed as soon as I walk through the door. I think he does a lot of this because he's insecure about the men who see my body. He goes back and forth between loving me to hating me, and it looks like he's struggling a lot internally because he, quote, wishes he didn't care for a stripper. I've debated packing my things and just leaving in the middle of the night on many occasions, but I love him. I'm not sure what to do or say to him. I'm tired of this cycle. Fast forwarding into the future in the next update, the OP says, I plan on breaking up with him when I move in January, and I think he's catching on because he's been asking all sorts of questions. I've been falsely reassuring him. I usually would just be honest and break things off now, but we're still living together and I know how he would react. I'm kind of walking on eggshells here because he's starting to drink more. I'm positive he started drinking because I've been avoiding him and making excuses not to be at home, and the reason I've been avoiding him is because I'm always anxious about how he'll react when I come home. I broke broke down and told him that exactly, and he only got mad saying, "How are you more afraid of coming home than going out and shaking your booty for random MFs? Like, yeah, shouldn't that tell you something?" In the past month, he's escalated to hiding my favorite stilettos to the point I had to start bringing my stuff to work where it would 100% go missing, which is why I kept everything at home. He took my house key off my keys, locked me out, flushed my birth control and my makeup, threw my money out the window, and he started hurting me when doing the deed and tried to get me to do things that I didn't want to do. It's been leaving me in a depressive spiral. I'm just tired of being hurt in this way, period. It's like my body is only desired by therapists without the. So yeah, my rant is over. I want advice on how I should break things off the safest way. I made my own little escape plan, but the only problem I have is with packing. I've been slowly moving my things to storage over the last few weeks, but not too much, so he's not alarmed. So what should I do? This whole situation is really, really serious. The OP should absolutely evacuate the situation, even if it means leaving behind a few things that are material things. Leaving the situation with your health intact is the number one priority here. This is absolutely getting worse and worse and worse. It's not like it's just flatlining and stabilized. Who knows how bad it'll get by the next day and the day after and the day after. I mean, he's already destroying her property. He's hurting her. He's making her scared to come home. And it sounds like he's perpetually under the influence, so that can only escalate to a much worse spot. It's hard to tell if the OP sees how serious the situation is and how urgent it is to get out of the situation, but hopefully she did. The OP added a little bit more information in one of the comments in response to everything and said, "I did gather my passport and all my important stuff way back when I started noticing things being misplaced. I've already thought about staying with a coworker for now, but the problem is he knows where I work and would probably show up right away if I left right now. I'm waiting until at least the last few days to do so because I can't miss work right now. I'm trying to make it where nothing blows up in my face." Someone named 5'0" had a really good response to this that says, "At least at work, you have protection/bodyguards. You don't have that luxury at home. Run. You said it yourself, he's hurting you. That is 100% more dangerous of a situation than whatever tantrum he'll throw when you leave. You're safer anywhere but with him. I'd get a police escort to move out. That way, anything else that happens will be fully documented and taken seriously." I guess that makes sense. I didn't even realize you could even call a police as an escort when you're moving out, but this is a situation where you would absolutely want to do that. But let me know what you would do in this situation, or if you've ever been in something like this. I hope you haven't, but if you have, let me know what happened down below. My husband openly brags to me and the kids about how many women throw themselves at him. I'm a 48-year-old female and my husband is 51 years old. We're expats in a country where the average household consider themselves to be lucky to make between $2,000 and $3,000 a year. For the purpose of not giving away too much identifying information, I will be referring to this country as Country E. 2.5 years ago, my husband, who works in finance, was promoted to a position in which he could finally have the compensation, the authority, and the projects that he always dreamed of. The downside was that this position would be in the company's headquarters in another country, which would require us to move away from our family and friends. But I was so excited for my husband and our kids, 15 and 10 years old, were so happy about experiencing another culture as well as supporting their dad that we urged my husband to take the position. Because they were telling my husband they wanted to see him there as soon as possible, we agreed that he would go settle in and we would fly over around 2 months later. It seems that the moment his plane took off towards Country E marked the beginning of the end of all of his feelings and respect and appreciation for me and the kids. After just 2 months apart, I could sense a dramatic change in my husband. He went from calling me and the kids every day to every other day, and then reducing communication to just text messages. At first, I thought he was just busy settling in, but the night before we were to fly out, he video chatted us and the kids asked him why he seemed disappointed that we were coming. He said that they were imagining things and that it was just how his face looked on camera. As we settled into our new home in Country E, he shot us pretty resentful looks and continuously snapped at me not to touch this or touch that. that. Like most expats, we lived in a home that was miles grander and showier than we could ever get back home, and with a lot of stuff like a company car and housekeeping services paid for by the company, my husband had money to burn and started having ridiculously high expectations about how we dressed and looked. He bought himself loads of designer watches with his fellow corporate Masters of the Universe friends and spent lavishly at restaurants and bars on the company tab. He also invested quite a bit of our money into real estate here, since the government is pushing for foreign investors to invest, even adopting more liberal outward rhetoric in order to be appealing to the West. The country we live in has extreme wealth disparities, most of it, unfortunately, not held by locals. There is a city center area where all the basically high-end stores, hotels, clubs, and restaurants, as well as homes are in the country. And despite the fact that this country is technically conservative, escorting is rampant and is an outgrowth of the generally desperate economic straits of families, and the fact that it is obvious who has money and therefore where to go and who to target. Escorts are apparently basically everywhere in the area we live where there are restaurants or bars or entertainment. When men see dressed up local women in pairs roaming around an establishment, they assume they are escorts, and 90% of the time they are right. An expat friend once asked a woman who approached him in a bar what she did, and she said it was obvious what she did. My husband started criticizing my appearance a lot, and when we'd go out, he'd ask if I'd ever consider wearing my hair like woman A, B, or C. Or we'll go out to eat as a family, and he will just ignore what the kids are saying and just stare at different women. When his friends come over, my friend always brags in front of me about the women that approach him, not just at the bars, but he also brags about how local women who work in the office with him are exceptionally engaging. He got very aggressive when we were doing the deed and said he wanted to urinate on me. Later on, he pulled my hair hard enough to draw blood, and when I said I didn't want to do it anymore, he started screaming that a bunch of the women who looked exactly like his type would be eager to do it all and more for less than I spent on dinner. My daughter found a bunch of contacts on his phone that blew up his phone with flirty messages on WhatsApp, and instead of at least pretending to be ashamed for our daughter's sake, he went with the "your dad is still attractive" angle, but botched it terribly when it turned into a diatribe about how he had to give out the number to one woman because she looked close to tears when he tried to pull away. While most women are respectful when a man is with his wife and or family, sometimes it happens where at restaurants and hotels where my husband is a regular for dinner, women who I assume are also regulars will disregard my presence and give me a scornful once-over. When we are out as a family and my husband sees a woman give his attire an approving once-over, he will smile flirtatiously back and seem to bask in the glow and not pay attention to me or the kids. I have been to support groups and have been told to let it wear off because many other wives have experienced their husbands being high on the attention, but my husband seems to be getting more and more obsessed with the attention. My son is young, but he has gone from happy-go-lucky to glaring at his father and whoever he is smiling at. My husband and I have tried to communicate, but everything turns into my fault. I do not appreciate his contributions enough when I disagree with him, saying the kids don't need to learn how to do laundry because the housekeeper will do it for them. I do not appreciate him when I move the furniture from how he organized it or when I disagree with him on anything. I started tracking our banking information and found out that he made numerous large withdrawals. He denied vehemently that he was seeing escorts and said I seemed jealous and had something against people who escort. I told him to the contrary, that I feel bad for people who need to put their lives and their health at risk like this and do not have access to any form of government assistance. We had a big fight that night and I went to stay with a friend for the night to cool off. When I came back home, he glared at me and said, "Oh, you're back? What if I don't want you here anymore?" I don't know what to do. My support group keeps telling me that he will get off his power trip, but if I leave him, I will likely lose any assets he has here. My kids obviously still have school and love their classmates. I need any advice about how to save my marriage or how to get my husband to stop thinking that I am not enough for him when I haven't changed from when we were not expats. Yet while he respected and appreciated me back home, he scorns me here. What should I do? This entire scenario sounds like a total nightmare, and it sounds like a lot of this obviously started happening before the family even got there. Maybe he's going to meet these girls, maybe he's not, but at this point, through all of these different terrible interactions with the OP, the wife, I think one of her big concerns should be whether or not he's going to give her an STD. The whole scenario where she describes her husband going to dinner with her and the kids, and then the husband staring at the girl who she thinks is a regular there, maybe that is something more. And the fact that all this money is missing and that he is directly telling her he wants her to look like this girl or that girl is all bad enough. But the thing that makes this so blatant is that he tells her in that moment of frustration that he could buy a girl for cheaper than the meal that they just ate. I mean, this whole situation is so sad, and I don't really see any way that the OP can come back from this or try and salvage this relationship given everything that's happened so far. She's already mentioned that she knows that if she leaves, she won't have any assets because he converted all the money into local real estate, and maybe that was his plan all along. But even losing the assets in this situation doesn't sound like it's worth enduring all of this just to keep them. One part of a comment in response to this said, there are certain kinds of guys who always thought they deserve female attention but never got it for whatever reason. Once they get it, it's game over. They're going to be woman hopping for the rest of their lives in their new paradise on earth. So this is a complex situation, obviously, but let me know what you would do if you were in this situation. I caught my wife cheating and she made my daughter hate me and somehow made it my fault. We were married for 19 years, together for 23 years when she became aloof and distant, finally declaring that our marriage seemed likely over and that she was on a healing path, AA, while I was broken, engaged in my career, doting on family, music making, furniture building, friends, and sports. She was spending increasing amounts of time out of the house to help celebrate a friend's sobriety. Our teenage daughter and I were home together without mom many nights. Things got increasingly worse, with my wife stating she was willing to not file for divorce until our daughter went off to college, with occasionally vocalizing, "What am I thinking? We've built a great life together," interludes. Finally, after about 5 months of this, I couldn't take it anymore. I read her emails and searched on love. Bang. I confronted her. She asked what I found out. My first mistake was that I told her. I got a new set of lies from her that conveniently served as the least harmful explanation of my evidence. She said, "We only made out once. It was awful. We're just friends." I was crushed. Having endured this before with my first wife, I told her she had to end contact with this guy, and we spent the weekend rebonding, or so I thought. Things seemed to be on a healing path, but over the next couple of weeks, she started backsliding into the acrimony that she had inflicted upon me earlier. She began to urge me to work on my upper chest. I told her that I commuted by bicycle 20 miles a day, and I was in very good shape. I said I felt fine about my body. Her boyfriend had some big chest I would learn. Then there were more night celebrations. I got a phone she had recently upgraded from, and I did a deep forensics dive. I found very explicit text messages indicating full carnality. It turns out her lover was an opiate junkie she met in AA. 5 foot 8 inches to my 6 foot 2 inches. He was bankrupt, estranged from his family, pock-faced, poorly educated. I graduated from a top 10 university and was, and currently am, a technology executive making very good money. I was at least relieved that this reinforced my existing knowledge that it was never about me. I reconfronted her. She wanted to know what new information I found. I told her, no, you'll just make up a new set of lies. You tell me everything or get out of my house. And you keep in mind, I already know more than you can imagine. It all came spilling out in ugly waves. All of the moves when they did the deed, as one is driven into self-destruction. I insisted she write it all out in detail. I confronted her junkie boyfriend at the third-rate hotel he worked in. I blew that up. His hotel chain transferred him after I confronted him in the lobby. I told her I would consider the gift of reconciliation, but that she had an enormous amount of work to win back my shattered trust. She seemed grateful for the chance. My second mistake was I should have insisted she move out for some period of time. Unbeknownst to me, our teenage daughter had been reading her mom's emails and knew all the tawdry details. A couple of weeks after the big D-Day, my daughter got sloshed, popped some pills, and drove a car off the road, miraculously not injuring herself or others as the car flipped, teetering above a swollen creek. My daughter got a huge DWI and was kicked out of National Honor Society and shamed at school. Her mom decided I had to deal with all of this because she couldn't do it herself. A couple of weeks later, her mom screamed at our daughter, "F you, F you, F you, F you, you're the reason I want to get red nose sloshed. You're the reason I want to put a bullet through my dome." Then she peeled out of the driveway at a high rate of speed to a fate my daughter and I could not ponder. Our daughter was extremely upset, as one could imagine. I reassured her that her mother's outburst was completely unacceptable and was about her mother's mother's cognitive and emotional state, not a reflection on her, my daughter. Her mom eventually returned, remorseful but minimizing what she had done. Then a transformation occurred where our daughter had been overly angry at her mother. Now our daughter knew she couldn't be angry at her mother as it could lead to her mother unliving herself, which in the twisted logic of mom's tantrum would be our daughter's fault. So our daughter took her otherwise understandable anger out at me. Her mom, greatly relieved, fomented her daughter's re-vectored impulse to be angry at me. Her mom encouraged her to see me as the villain and the rightful recipient of the rage. As a lush, her mom had to protect her lush ego, and if it meant emotionally manipulating / taking advantage of her own daughter, then no problem. Things got worse and worse. My wife began to see herself as a real victim in all of this, which in perverse hindsight, she actually was. She declared with great relief that I've forgiven myself. She would stalk me on internet support groups for victims of infidelity. My third mistake was telling her about my support systems, where she would find fodder for new screaming arguments. As should fairly be predictable by now, things completely fell apart. A year into our attempted reconciliation, she erupted in a mocking diatribe about my deepest insecurities and sadness, the place every longtime spouse knows about the other and knows never to exploit. She went there, imitating me from moments years prior where I had shared my deepest vulnerabilities. She mockingly went into fake tears, exaggerated self-pity, while manically cackling at my extreme discomfort. But that was my light bulb moment, and now I see it as a wonderful and enlightening event. If, in this time in which I was offering the gift of an opportunity to win back my trust, she was willing to obliterate all forms of marital decorum, to exploit the intimate vulnerabilities I had shared with her, my spouse of some 20 years, in order to vent her misdirected shame, then clearly and irrevocably, she could never be trusted again. At that moment, I knew I had to be rid of this cancer. I was now certain I could never trust her again, and I was not willing to be in a relationship with an irredeemably untrustworthy person. Where I had been racked with ambivalence before, I had a calm certainty now. The divorce settlement was ugly. I ended up paying her $200,000 to keep the house I had already paid for and keep my pension that I had worked 20 years for. Even though she worked and made a good salary, I had paid all the household bills, mortgage, car payments, taxes, insurance, food, etc. for the entire marriage. I'm not sure where all her money went over the years, but likely to her junkie boyfriend. Who knows? The saving grace was the house appraiser she and her attorney insisted on ended up lowballing the value of the house by several $100,000. That saved me from real financial ruin, and I got to keep my dream house, a custom-made high-end home perched on a ridge on 3 wooded acres high above a beautiful, environmentally preserved river. It's not a huge home, but has a detached recording studio for my music, a woodworking shop, and is the calmest place I've ever been. 4 years later, things are much better for my daughter and me. Our relationship is strong again. Although her scars are still vicious and deep, she got into a very competitive college in New York City where she's about to graduate. She tells me how much she appreciates that I never badmouth her mom, around her at least, while telling me how stressful it is when her mom curses me and speaks disparagingly about me openly and to anyone who will listen. Now my ex refers to her affair as my cry for help and blames me for not seeing it as such. As she tells her remaining friends, I just slept with this guy a few times and the OP was too selfish to try and understand my pain. In her telling, it was doing the deed. She will never understand how minor that is compared to the overall context of complete destruction of trust. When I hear these statements through the grapevine, my overwhelming reaction is one of relief. Now I have an amazing girlfriend who is emotionally competent, and my daughter likes her too. Here's what I wish I did. Number 1, a full 180. Number 2, demanded a post-nuptial agreement as a symbol of her commitments to reconciliation. Number 3, invited her to move out as soon as I had proof of her cheating. Here's what I'm glad that I did. I hung in there until I had 100% certainty. Number 2, I never badmouthed her around our daughter. Number 3, I found support systems. Number 4, I confronted her junkie lover. And finally, I knew this had nothing to do with me, but only my ex's brokenness. This one was totally heart-wrenching. I can't believe the ex-wife still seems to blame the OP, the husband here, for what she did outside the relationship. It kind of seemed like she was floundering for a long time about what to do. She wanted to break up or go on a healing journey. I think that's what she called it. Do all this different stuff. Meanwhile, he was totally oblivious to the fact that she had a whole second life. And one part that's really sad is that she wouldn't even admit it to him directly. She would only admit to things that he would confirm for her first. So understanding that as being the dynamic, it really makes you think, how long has this actually been going on and how deep has it been going on? Maybe we only know about this junkie guy because that's the only one that he found. Who knows how many other things were a part of this whole situation? The OP actually touched on this later on and said, blaming the betrayed spouse for one's own cheating is simply chapter 7 of the cheater's handbook. Not to overgeneralize, but cheaters are all about impulse, fulfillment, and ego. It's important they convince themselves what they did was rational and reasonable. My ex got all hung up on, I'm not a bad person. I'm a good person who just did a bad thing. That was before she went full on blame shifting. And also, what she did to her daughter was very selfish. I mean, she put all of that pressure on the daughter, blaming her for all of her problems when it comes to AA and everything like that. But then, ultimately, the long play was to manipulate the emotions of the daughter to try and somehow divert the blame over to the dad instead of the mom. I mean, that's a really hard play to make. I don't even know how that even worked, but it seems like it did, at least for a while, until the daughter could see past that, see through it. But in retrospect, the daughter seems to understand what has happened to some degree, because she made that comment about, I'm glad that you don't disparage mom around me, when that's all she does constantly when I'm around her about you. There's a term that got brought up a few times called hysterical bonding. And the OP actually mentions this when he says, the 180 is hard as hell. I succumbed to hysterical bonding, which worked against the interest of reconciliation and later made me ashamed of my underlying desperation to love bomb her. Then again, it resulted in detaching my fortunes with someone who clearly put her own lush ego above common decency and above her own loved ones. All's well that ends well. To this day, XWW is a mess. My new girlfriend ran into her recently. XWW was going on about, it really hurt me that the OP moved on so quickly. It was 6 months after our split that I began dating. Wow. Someone else responding to this from a throwaway account says, oh man, the hysterical bonding has been my downfall too. I feel the same way after though, like I'm dirty and used. I've been sticking to the no contact though since the last time, and it's really helped me to try and practice the 182. It's all hard as hell though. I'm sure some of you guys have been in a situation that is somewhat similar to this, and if you were, let me know what happened down below in the comments, and if you haven't been, what would you do if you were in this situation? I found out my fiance cheated during her bachelorette party, and I'm planning on leaving. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and follow the podcast. I don't know how to explain any of this. I was basically snooping around last night when I saw her phone go off. It was a message from her friends about the party. I stayed up like one of those stalkers you see on TV, and I've been checking the computer, her Facebook messages with her friends, and found out that she cheated during her bachelorette party. By cheating, I don't mean getting a striptease or something, which I would be okay with. I understand it's a bachelorette party, but she actually gave a stripper a BJ and ended up going home with another guy that night. She has this other guy added on Facebook, but the chat merely consists of a message that says, had a good time and it was nice to meet you. The date goes back to the night of the bachelorette party. I have, however, read the messages between her and her friends. They have a small group, and I found out what she'd done there. It all seems as if it was a one-time thing that happened, but I am a mess. I haven't slept all night, and she is headed for work in an hour, so when she wakes up, it's almost 6 a.m. here, I don't know what to do. We were supposed to get married in 3 weeks. I am thinking of simply packing all of my bags after she goes to work and just leaving the flat. It's her family's flat anyway. We were planning on buying a house together, having kids, and growing old. I feel like I want to throw all of that out the window. I am sitting here smelling like liquor, feeling sloshed and depressed. I don't know why, but I'm more of an angry depressed than a sad depressed. I haven't cried since I found out about all of this. Should I confront her? Should I just get out? Should I hear her side of the story? Honestly, I just want to stomp her out right now, but I don't want to do something irrational. Please Please help. A mini update to this says, I think I have my mindset on leaving. I will probably do so while she's at work. I really don't know. I feel a lot calmer already. I'm not going to drink or do anything stupid. And so here is the major update. I will try to be as detailed as possible. I have had quite a few private messages regarding what happened, and I got such a big amount of responses, both positive and negative, that I never imagined would have happened. I basically left in the morning to take a smoke. My head was still messed up, but reading all the comments helped me. I can't remember who, but there was one guy who said, the positive thing about all of this is that I found out before I got married, with no children and no attachments. I still don't think she cheated other than this night. Nothing I found indicated anything else. I guess she wanted this to be her last night before settling down or something. I honestly don't know, and I don't care. When I was outside taking a smoke, about 15 to 20 minutes or something after I left, she had woken up. She noticed the drinks out and asked me what I had been up to. Basically came to give me a kiss and a hug. I followed through with it, but honestly felt empty doing it. I didn't want to give her any hints of what I knew. She asked why I had been drinking and why I didn't come to sleep last night. I told her I was just having some nightmares, but everything was fine. I felt detached, like I was watching myself in third person through a TV or something. She asked me if any stress was related to the marriage and the plans, and I just told her something along the lines of, you know I love you. There is no stress I have for the marriage. How can you be stressed about the best thing in your life? She got herself done and then she left for work. I basically started packing my most important things, my desktop, my computer, most clothes, and some other things. I planned on leaving things like the furniture, the TV, and the things I really don't care about more than just getting out. I just took the stuff most important to me so that I don't have to return here again. I don't care if she gets the rest. All in all, my stuff added to about 3 or 4 suitcases, I would say. Desktop not included in this. I called and canceled the venue we were supposed to be having the wedding at. Apparently they take 15% of the money for canceling so early because we were having such a big event. I told them it's fine, and I really don't care at this point. I also saved screenshots of everything and have taken them with me. Around 1 p.m. I called a taxi and went to stay at a hotel about 100 kilometers away from my city. I didn't leave any notes or pictures at home. I just left. I am planning on leaving to stay with a really close friend who lives in a town about 300 kilometers away, but I just needed the alone time in the hotel to think everything through and process what has happened. Around 3:30 p.m. my phone starts getting spammed with calls from my ex-fiance. Around 3:50 I start getting calls and messages from her sister, her friends, her parents, my parents, and a few of our mutual friends. The only person I called back was my dad and my mom. I have a huge trust for my parents. I basically spilled the beans and told them a nicer story about what happened. I asked my dad not to say anything and also asked my mother not to say anything. I told them it's ended, it's over, and that I won't be getting married anymore. I also told them not to tell anyone about what I told them. I trust them a lot, so I'm sure they didn't say anything. I didn't tell them exactly what happened, just that I found out she wasn't being loyal to me. I didn't think giving details would help anyway. Around 5 p.m. my dad calls me back and is telling me my ex-fiance is completely hysterical and has basically broken down, completely not understanding what is going on. I just told my dad not to intervene and that I need some alone time now. I basically just shut my phone down and I have been staying silent ever since, like a ghost. I've been sleeping for a little, I went to the pool here at the hotel, and I've been just taking it easy. I don't know if I should respond to them now or if I should wait some more. Her sister knew about what happened at the bachelorette party. I have the text to prove it. She even laughed about it and told her not to feel guilty because it's a bachelorette party and that women should just go all in on this night. I am seriously considering replying to the sister with just an image of the conversation where she is telling her this. Now it's 10 p.m. soon. So there are 2 final small updates. The first one says, since I still get messages asking what happened, I will leave this here. Yes, I did send the proof to her sister, the part where the sister is talking about it. I have not received any call or message from the sister. My phone is still blowing up with calls and messages from my ex-fiance. I haven't read any of them though, yet. I'm thinking of answering or something, but I don't know what to say or what to do. I might make another post later today so I can update everyone with what has happened. And then lastly, the final small update to this whole thing says, I might go for a vacation or something, I don't know yet. I will just shortly explain that I really feel like Neo in the Matrix dodging bullets in slow motion. However, instead of dodging bullets, I have dodged a floozy wife, unwanted children with this wife, endless fights, and tons of depression. I honestly feel a lot better knowing that my life will get better. Shortly said about her, She has broken down and is begging me to take her back. So is her sister and her friends. They also came up with the worst excuse of what actually happened. I don't believe them for 2 seconds. During the day, I contacted the co-owner of my business and I let him know the full story. He told me to take as much time as I need and even advised me to head off to a vacation. This guy's a childhood friend of mine. I don't trust anyone as much as him. My plans have changed a bit. I am staying in this hotel for another few days and then perhaps moving on to the friend I was supposed to go to. I called him up and let him know I want to head off somewhere, perhaps a trip to somewhere nice, another country or something. It's still not all 100% decided yet, but I know I will be leaving for somewhere. He said he would be up for joining me if he could during the upcoming week since he is still on holiday from his work. We will see how that turns out. Later in the day, I responded to my wife. The calls keep coming in less frequently since I sent that message to her sister. I had this gut feeling that she was going to come up with an excuse of some sort. I picked up the phone and the first thing I hear is a torn up voice, if you can say that in English. I could hear she had been crying all day and was in a messed up state. She kept begging me to come back, that there is an explanation to everything and that she loves me. She said I have misunderstood the entire situation. I could hear her sister and someone else in the background. I don't know who the other person was, maybe her friend. Anyway, I told her to explain it to me right then and there. She said because I only see a small part of the conversation that it's all been misunderstood, that I should come back home, that she loves me, and that I have taken a rational decision to leave without any real reason. During the entire conversation, I was just giving really short, empty answers in a cold way like, yeah, okay, what? Explain it to me. After she told me it's all a misunderstanding, I told her to call me back in 10 minutes and to check Messenger. After I hung up, I sent her the entire conversation with a ton of screenshots. Not all of them, but most of the important ones. It didn't take 2 minutes for her to call back, crying hysterically, saying she's sorry for everything, that she wants to die rather than to lose me. She said she was forced by her friends and her sister to have fun one last time, that she needed to let all the energy out before stepping into a marriage for life. I was just quiet during most of it. The more I didn't talk and just said, okay, the more she was crying. She started telling me that I can sleep with other women if I want to get back at her, or that she will tell everyone about what she did so I can take her back, that she will do anything it takes for me to come back, and that this was a mistake of her life, and that she hates her sister and friends for this. I told her sleeping with other women was not something I needed, because the moment I met her and started loving her, she was the only woman that I needed. I didn't need to meet or sleep with someone to know the best thing of my life was waiting at home. The sister was telling her stuff in the background. I couldn't hear. I don't know what the sister was telling her or if she was getting angry at her or something. She kept begging me, and I just told her if she comes clean to her parents and her family, I will think about it. After that, she started saying something, but I just hung up. For like half an hour, my phone goes silent without much response, and her father calls me up and apologizes for everything. He and his wife know what happened now, and he is so sorry for all of this. He told me he understands how I feel and that he didn't raise his daughter to do this. He said he understands if I don't want to see her again, but that I will always be welcome to him and that I am a good guy. His wife basically then steals/takes the phone from him and tells me she did a mistake and she regrets it and it will never happen again and that we can move forward from this. She tells me her daughter has never been this destroyed before. I politely tell her I appreciate her opinion and then I say I have to go and goodbye. My ex-fiance calls me back and begs me again, saying she told her parents and also sent a text message to her friends, our mutual friends, about what happened. She then keeps crying, asking me when I will come back to speak with her, and saying we can even go to counseling and that she will pay for everything. She kept apologizing on the phone, and I didn't say much. After some time, I just told her not to cry, that she shouldn't be apologizing because single women like herself are allowed to do these things, and I hope she finds Mr. Right. She starts crying even harder, and her sister takes the phone and says sorry and tells me everything can be fixed and that I said I would take her back now that she told everyone what she did. I told the sister I only said I would think about it, and now that I have realized I dodged a bullet and wish her and her sister the best. She then tells me her sister is turning into a dangerous situation of wanting to unlive herself because of all of this, and that this is going to lead into a depression that can take her life. The only thing I said after she told me that was, well, it's a good thing you are close to her so you can make sure she doesn't do that to herself. Maybe take her to a doctor or something. After this, I just hung up. My phone has been blowing up with messages from everyone, mutual friends, her and her sister saying sorry and and basically begged me to come back. I don't plan on responding. I honestly feel a lot better right now, like I can move on. I will be going for a vacation this upcoming week, I think. If something more happens, I'll let you guys know. I don't know when I feel okay to start dating/meeting women again, but we will see. My best friend, the co-owner of my company, hired someone to take care of the company for us and also booked a month-long vacation for the both of us. I am so lucky to have such a good person in my life, and I hope you are all able to find a friend like this. I would do the same for him. He's been a friend since we were kids, and if I lost all other people, I know he would be there for me. So a big thanks to him. Man, this is really devastating, but as he's already pointed out, it is a good thing that if this was going to happen in general, that he knew before entering into a lifelong commitment with this other person. I mean, what would have happened if he didn't find this out? Would she have just taken this to the grave? Would have all of her friends and her sister just taken this to the grave, all knowing what has happened with not just one guy, but two guys here in the same night? It is kind of crazy that she's able to dissociate herself to that degree where it's almost like it didn't even happen at all until she's directly confronted with reality. It seems like in a lot of these stories, the person that's in the wife's position, the cheater, somehow is able to operate as if it doesn't exist until it is totally unavoidable, which is strange because it's not a personal secret. It's something that this whole group of people know about. Somehow I don't think the takeaway from this is going to be don't cheat or don't do this to someone you care about, but it's probably going to be hide this better. I am really glad that he does have this friend to help him through this, and he does have parents he can count on, because a lot of people don't have someone like that in their life, and they don't have parents like that either. Doesn't make things magically better, but it sure helps. It really makes you think, if she's willing to have all these concessions in order to have him stay with her, then why would she do it in the first place? I mean, he did give her a chance to explain. She says, come back home and explain it. And he says, no, explain it to me right now on the phone. And there was no real explanation. She was going to keep on lying about it until he sent her all of the documentation that he had, which is kind of sad that it even had to come to that in the first place. I'm just surprised that he was even able to keep his composure that very first night when he went out to smoke the cigarette and she came up to him and he had to pretend like everything was fine. Some of the people that respond to this are pointing out that this kind of stuff happens all the time, that bachelorette parties are just crazy like this, but that's not really something I've heard of. Maybe you guys can let me know if you think this is common or not, but there's a difference between what he says he's okay with here, which is her getting dances from these dancers, versus her going out and fulfilling her carnal desires all the way to the point that he got. If these acts themselves weren't enough to convince the OP that he should just get out of the situation, the way that her and her sister tried to manipulate things all the way up to the very, very bitter end is the final confirmation that you need. If she's willing to lie about something so serious, so convincingly, and have people coordinate with her in order to make it seem like it's real, her conviction that she didn't do anything wrong, then you can only imagine what things would be like in the future with other situations, cheating or otherwise. I really feel for the guy. I hope he's all right. I hope none of you guys have been in a situation like this, but if you have, let me know down below in the comments. My wife said she's going to sleep with other men now because she feels like she missed out on that part of life. Before we jump into the story, don't forget to subscribe with notifications turned on and follow the podcast link down below. My wife Beth and I are 50 years old. We have 3 kids and the last just graduated and started a new job in May. We've been married for 27 years. 2 of our kids are also married, and our daughter is 5 months pregnant with the first grandchild on the way. This past Friday, our family celebrated my wife Beth's 50th birthday. She was a stay-at-home mom until about 13 years ago. She started a career and has done great. We are now almost equal in pay. We are not rich, we still have a mortgage, but life is comfortable. Saturday, I was finishing my breakfast. My wife sits across from me and says, "I need to tell you something." She pauses. I'm like, okay, what is it? She takes a deep breath and says, "I'm going to start sleeping with other men." I just stare, waiting for a smile to crack. None. I ask her to repeat it. She still doesn't smile. Now I am thinking, WTF does that mean? She goes on to explain, for the last 10 years, she's had the pact with herself. The kids will be gone, job is good, our life is good. She wants to do this for herself. Again, WTF. We were married in our early 20s. We were our only partners, and she feels that she missed out. Now that she is 50 years old, she wants this new life. She wants the marriage opened up. I asked if I had any say. Nope. She hoped I would look elsewhere also. but she wants to stay married. Now I am going ape. I am yelling, crying, sobbing, all the emotions of betrayal. I ask if I did anything to cause this. She says no, it was all her. I left the house to drive nowhere. I called her best friend from childhood, Claire. She confirmed they had talked about this off and on over the years. They have a group of friends they do their girls' night out with, etc. 2 are single, 4 are married. The 2 singles delight the group with their exploits. Claire says they all have been yearning, but Beth is the only one following through. I should point out that I will be talking to Claire's husband. We are good friends. So I have no one to talk about this with. My parents on both sides are alive in their late 70s. I called my brother 1,000 miles away. He was blown away. He had no advice. I did call a lawyer on Monday. We will meet next week. In the meantime, he advised me not to move out, change the locks, or change living arrangements, as that could come back to bite me. He said take lots of notes, and above all, no physical confrontation. That would not be a problem. On Sunday, I went in for round 2. I asked if she was going to date these guys, and she said no, just sleep with them. I asked how they were to meet. She said a girlfriend was to set her up on sites. I was worried about her safety. Her girlfriends would be close by on the initial meetup. They would also know where and when the hookup would take place. I know there are some weird posts out there. I need to Google half of the things people write with all the acronyms, initials, and just plain different lifestyles. Does anyone have any advice or ever heard of something like this? I took Monday off from work to collect my thoughts, but that didn't work at all. And she is just going about her life unfazed by this. So there's actually an update to this, and part 2 says, my wife and I calmed down on Sunday to discuss this mess. I had been avoiding her all week until I could get my head around it. We took a drive in the car, something we like to do for like 3 hours. My wife started out apologizing for how she presented this to me. She had been rehearsing on what to say. When it came time to inform me, it just spilled out of her mouth all wrong. She wanted to bring up now that the kids are grown on their own, she would like us to make changes in our lives. She went on about not having other partners to sleep with, etc. What she wanted to propose was that we have an open relationship where we both would seek out others. I told her that I could not do this. I reminded her of the vows before God, family, and friends that we took on fidelity. I told her how she had violated the trust that I had for her. Look, I understand what she is feeling. I know she wants new experiences. I told her our plan, as we discussed many times in the past. Once the kids were out, we would travel a bit, maybe take up new hobbies, maybe some education classes, etc. We never had a discussion about this. I told her because of the breach of trust and her steadfastly stating that she is going to do this, I was seeing a lawyer on Tuesday to start divorce proceedings. At this point, if she said she would not go through with this, I could not think that she would be cheating at some point. That is where the trust comes in. I think divorce is proper. She can do her thing, no guilt associated. I think equal division of assets. I expect to make no support payments. Did not know if that was a thing in our state. It's not. We will have to sell the house and each downsize. We actually had a good talk. The papers are now being drawn and we will hopefully get through this by fall. I did talk to each kid individually and explain we are going separate ways. I did not mention the lifestyle change. They can talk to their mom themselves. I will always love my wife. I will take the high road. I know many of you wanted scorched earth, but I cannot do that. It's not me. I do want to address a couple of comments someone posted on the update. They thought I was trying to manipulate her into staying by using the marriage vows. I got to say that my religious upbringing has set my morals that I live by. This works for me. There are some that say it's the 21st century, no one lives that way anymore. There are many things I see others do and say that I do not agree with, but I do not try and impose my morals on them. And conversely, you should not denigrate what I believe. Remember, my wife and I believe the same for close to 30 years. And only recently she has made a change. I never held her down. She was always free to choose. I believe in God and believe in my vows before him. Sorry, enough soapbox. That is one way to get blindsided. It sounds like they already had a plan what they were going to do when the kids left, and it was to have hobbies, to go travel, to do all of this. So I wonder why the wife didn't at least start to bring that up way back when they were having these original conversations. If she thought it was because he would be upset or leave her, then why would she want to waste his time by not giving him the option to choose to leave her, when ultimately, if that's the risk, you're still going to have to deal with that risk at the end, except with somebody who in most cases would probably be a lot more bitter about it, because it wasn't like she just randomly had this idea. Her and her girlfriends have been talking about this for a decade. Is that what they said? A pretty long time. The material aspect of it is probably the least of their worries, but it's a shame that they do have to sell the house that they have all these memories in, presumably all good memories, and then downsize into smaller houses in order to do this. But I wonder what's at the end of the road when it comes to this. Does the wife want another long-term partner that's just not him? Or does she straight up not want a long-term relationship anymore at all, and she wants to go out and do what she's gonna do with her girlfriends? I mean, what happens when the final two girls in the group end up getting married and they're not gonna be the ones that go to the rendezvous points to make sure that she's safe, and they have their own lives and they're tired of setting things up for the wife here? Or I guess the ex-wife now. I mean, maybe she'll just end up doing it on her own, but it's admirable that the husband tried to take the high road here. He didn't try and slander her to the kids. He didn't try to destroy her life or financially ruin her. Nothing. He just accepted this harsh reality, and as much as it sounds like he didn't want to, moved on past it. So if you were in this situation, let me know what you would do. My friends have been trying to sleep with my ex-husband. Our divorce isn't even finalized yet. I'm a 29-year-old female. My husband is 29 years old as well. We were together since we were 18, married since we were 21, and have been in the middle of a divorce for 6 months. The divorce has been pretty brutal, and my ex has become different. So when he told me some of my friends were already trying to sleep with him, I didn't believe him. I thought he was lying to try to hurt me, especially since my best friend was one of the friends he claimed was trying to sleep with him, and I just couldn't believe she would do something like that to me. He told me this 2 months ago, and I chose to continue being friends with them, and I stopped having any contact with him. I saw him again in person on Wednesday because we were at a stalemate on divorce negotiations. My lawyer suggested I give him something he wanted to get things moving, so I agreed to have dinner with him. Predictably, it did not end well. Things were already tense between us, so when he brought up my friends apparently trying to sleep with him again, it turned into a huge fight. I asked him what he was gaining by lying to me and if he hadn't hurt me enough already. He insisted he was not lying and that he was telling me because he cared about me. I got upset at this and I was going to leave, but he stopped me and forced me to read the texts they were sending him. I feel so dumb and hurt. I've known most of these friends for as long as, if not longer than my husband. Every time I think divorce might not be the right choice, they've been encouraging me to see it through because my ex is a quote bad person. But if he's such a bad person, why do they want to sleep with him? I don't know what to do. I've been thinking about confronting them, but I don't know if it's worth it. What should I do? This is maybe as bad as the divorce itself because presumably, from what we can tell here, there was no betrayal of any kind. It sounds like they were just going to have a divorce, whereas her lifelong friends have totally and utterly betrayed her behind her back, and they're the ones encouraging her to divorce him in the first place. Maybe not to initiate it, but as she said here, to see it through. Fortunately, the husband recognized this, and rather than trying to be cruel, as she said he was in the beginning, he documented it and then showed her to prove it to her. I mean, that would be even more hurtful if the husband did it out of spite or something, some way to get back at her by hurting her. Because even though they're locked in a stalemate when it comes to the divorce, he wouldn't do something that hurtful. Doesn't mean it's easy though, because she still has to deal with these friends. I think the only thing you can do is, once you know that this is real, this has actually happened, you just gotta leave those people out of your life. I mean, it's not a scenario where these two girls liked a guy, but neither one had been in a relationship with him, and then one stated that she liked him, the other one didn't, and one went after him. It's not like that at all. She was married to him. I mean, it would be bad enough if she was in a relationship, obviously, but she was straight up married for that long, and at least one friend, we know it's more than one because she said friends, went to go do this to her. So all those people, you gotta round them up, get rid of them. It's not worth it. It really must hurt to lose a lifelong friend, but is that really a friend that would do that with someone that you've been in a marriage with before they're even divorced? I guess they're technically still married. Maybe you have a totally different takeaway and you think this is totally fine. If so, let me know what your thoughts are down below and what would you do? My baby's mama, my ex, has feelings for my current fiance. I did not see this coming at all. My ex and I are very good at co-parenting. I love that we get along because that allows our kids to still feel like we're a family, even though her and I aren't together anymore. She comes over and sometimes spends time with me, my fiance, and the kids. We all go out to eat, go shopping, etc. I guess with all the time we spent together, my ex started having feelings for my fiance. They get along extremely well, which always made me feel lucky because I don't want any drama, especially around the kids. Well, now I kind of wish they didn't get along this well. I should have known when my ex started talking to my fiance to go and get their nails done and get drinks, etc. I also remembered my ex tried to kiss my fiance one night when we all got a little too sloshed not too long ago, but we all blamed it on the drinks. Now I know why she did it. She just told me yesterday that she's falling for my fiance and can't stop thinking about her. I don't know what to do with that information. I don't know if this is my ex fishing for attention. Do I distance myself from my ex? How is that going to affect the kids? What am I supposed to do? As a mini update, I talked to my fiance and she is not sure what to do either. She wants to distance herself from my ex and not be around her anymore. We'll also work on boundaries. I'm just not sure how this will affect the kids. What should I do? This whole thing becomes way more complicated because the ex and the OP have kids together, so we can't just cut her out of his life altogether. The ex is always going to be there to at least some degree because they have kids together. I mean, maybe the only thing to do here is just to explain to the ex that there is absolutely no chance of anything like this happening, assuming that's what the fiance really feels. And if that's the case, then the OP and the fiance should probably sit down with the ex and say, hey, we understand you feel this way, but this is never going to happen. It doesn't matter how this goes down, it's not going to happen. I think being extremely blunt about the situation is the only way to take this head on, because you can't just remove this woman from your life anymore. But maybe you have a better solution. Let me know down below. My wife and I are split about when to have children. I'm a 25-year-old male and my wife is 23 years old. After a year of marriage, she wanted to start a family, and if this were any other time, I would be more than happy. My issue is that she has a drinking problem, and I don't feel she should be raising children at this time. When she gets sloshed, she would be belligerent, and when I would try to stop her, she slaps me. I don't want the same thing to happen to our kids. That's why I want her to quit drinking before we have kids. She doesn't think that she has a problem, but she clearly does. It's gotten to the point where I had to stop sleeping with her and put myself in a different room because she was trying to do this while I was asleep. How do I convince her to go to rehab before we have children? This is a whole can of worms. As I'm sure most of you guys know, if you're drinking during your pregnancy, that can lead to all sorts of issues with the baby, and it's really, really unfair to the baby to come out with any type of birth defects or addictions before they're even born. But even besides that, he's really focusing on the lifestyle of the kids as they're growing up. If she really becomes belligerent like that, that's going to be a pretty terrible childhood for these kids, and I think he's totally right to be beyond hesitant to want to have that be a future for his future kids. One of the top responses from Trees1 said something pretty insightful. He says, I'm going to be honest with you, you probably can't get her to go to rehab. You can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. My best advice would be to have a conversation with her about children and how her behaviors correlate to her not being in the right mindset for kids. If this conversation can't be done with just the two of you, probably a counselor would be helpful. The OP told this person, I tell her this, but she insists she can be a great mother and is insulted that I would say she could be a bad mother. Based on a lot of the OP's responses, it sounds like the wife doesn't want help at all. She doesn't think that she needs help, and I guess is in some sort of denial, which makes this whole thing a lot harder to deal with, because if she accepted that she does have a problem, then she can start working on it. If she doesn't admit that she has a problem, then it's hard to work on anything, because what is there to work on? And her being so young, I mean, she's only 23 years old, and to already have a habit that's severe enough that it causes your husband to go online and make a post about it, that's not a great starting point to build everything else on top of. So I think, like the comment says, you can't help people that don't want to be helped, but maybe there's some hope of having her realize that there is a problem. But let me know what you would do if you're in this situation. In this malicious compliance story, I had fresh stitches under my hat, and my teacher has a no hats in class policy. Sure thing, teacher. The car accident was of the side impact variety, and it was brutal. This was in the days before airbags and seatbelt laws. 1 second I'm driving, and the next I'm halfway out out the passenger window watching blood run off my head to pull in the glass of a previously closed window. Another second ticks and I'm in the ER receiving 13 crude stitches for 11 inches of wide open scalp. I lost more than 2 pints of blood and a large patch of hair. I also lost my favorite white fishnet t-shirt, but that is a separate tragedy. That Friday of Labor Day weekend was how my name shows up in the newspaper list of Labor Day weekend accidents. Tuesday comes and I go to class at the local college. Being a teenager gave me the gift of immortality. There I was, fully ambulatory, just 4 days after a serious car accident. For the sake of propriety, I'm wearing a hat to cover the fresh injury. It was a white Panama hat with a bright 80s style hat band. This was in 1983. Everything was 80s style, but that's a separate tragedy. Hobbling along, I made it to sociology just as class was beginning. I take a seat at the back of class and settle in. The conversation went something like this.
Excuse me, could you remove your hat, please?
The teacher had her own sense of propriety. My hat didn't fit with proper classroom attire. I was in a car accident, I replied. Did she hear my words, or was one of her rude students muttering another in a career-long list of excuses? Likely the latter was the case.
Take off the hat now. You cannot wear that in my class.
She indicated that she was not happy at all with my hat. Not at all. Well, okay then. Off comes my hat. Roughly a third of my hair had been shaved off. The wound was pink and puckered. The seam had a line of dried blood in it. The wound began an inch beyond my missing hairline and continued back, branching into a Y shape. The surgeon's instructions were to keep the wound clean, dry, and unbandaged. Lucky for all in attendance, my mother had washed my scalp the previous day. She used the word gore at some point to describe what she was washing off. Imagine now you're one of my classmates. Whatever you would say at that point would be something I heard from my classmates and friends.
You can put your hat back on,
said the teacher. Not before a little malicious compliance, I won't. But what I said was, but I can't wear hats in class, I replied. I mean, I can do it, but not if I'm breaking the rules.
Please put your hat back on.
Okay, if you insist. And the hat went back on my head. My advice is not to engage in malicious compliance on the first day of class. Not in a course where the teacher gives essay questions. That was the only C I received that semester, but that's a separate tragedy. I'm guessing the teacher in this case didn't understand what the OP meant when they said that they were in a car accident. If the OP just straight up said, hey, I have gigantic, wet, open wounds on my head that I'm not allowed to put bandages on, that's what's under my hat, then the teacher maybe would have been a little bit more receptive to the car accident reason, but that's a separate tragedy. Let me know what you would do if you're in the situation down below. My professor fails me because my group went ghost during our group project. So I was in a speech class, it was my last semester, completely online due to COVID. Our professor assigned us to a group speech that we were to record and send it to him by the due date. I thought it would be easy enough as he gave us 2 weeks to work on it, and group speeches weren't anything new to me. He even made separate discussion boards for our groups that we could use to communicate. This project was worth 30% of our grade, so failing this project meant that you would pretty much fail the course. I wanted to get it done early so we wouldn't have to worry about it, so I immediately posted a message to everyone in the group asking when they were free to do a Zoom meeting to discuss a project. No reply for a few days by any of them. I then posted again, this time a little more stern as it didn't seem any of them cared enough to even reply at all. I waited a few more days and at this point we only had a week left before it was due, so I just divided up the work and posted what everyone would need to write for their portion of the speech and gave them a date and time that I would be holding a Zoom meeting for the final recording to send to the professor. Still, no reply. It was now the day before the speech was to be recorded and 2 days before the speech was due, and my group members had not made an attempt to make contact in any form at all. So I did the only thing I could think of and emailed my professor explaining the situation, but I assumed he would not reply because throughout the entire semester, it took him over a week to reply to any emails I had sent him. I then did the entire group project on my own, which took me the whole night with no sleep. After I finished writing everyone's speech, it was around the time I had scheduled the Zoom meeting to record. I joined it out of amusement knowing nobody in my group would be there. Sure enough, it was empty, so I did the entire speech myself, but the rubric really put an emphasis on transitioning to our other group members, including saying their name. So between every section where it would cut to a different member, I would say something like, and now me, my name, will explain the importance of blah blah blah, then mute my screen briefly as if to add a cut, put on a different hat, and continue the speech. I did this for all 6 portions of the speech. I turned in the speech story shortly after and filled out the group member roll sheet that was due as well. I just put my name in every box that was supposed to be a different member. A week passes and I see he graded the project, still not replying to my previous email about the situation, by the way, and he gave me a 0, stating it was supposed to be a group project and me doing it solo meant I did not follow instructions. I was actually infuriated by this and knew that emailing him about the grade was as good as useless, so I went straight above him to the board of the college and explained to them what happened. They apologized and said the situation wouldn't be resolved within a few hours of me talking to the board. He had replied to my email 3 times stating he was sorry for the miscommunication about the project and that my grade would be corrected. He scolded me for going above him, saying I should have just emailed him if I couldn't get in contact with my classmates, and putting the blame on me for not trying harder to reach out to them. The next semester, I saw that he was no longer with the school. My guess is that it was a habit of his not to reply to emails and got fired for it. And this corrected grade was a 70, but I was so mentally exhausted from the situation at this point that I didn't care to fight it anymore. So am I the jerk? If the professor was fired because of this type of situation, it couldn't have only happened with the OP. This must have been happening all across the board. Like, not only was he not answering people's emails, he must also be trying to give people zeros for a totally completed project when they also had things outside of their control. In this case, I mean, he has the proof that he wrote these emails to all of his classmates, his group members, multiple times, and the proof that he wrote the email to him, the professor himself, which is why it's so strange that he would say if the OP couldn't contact the group members to not reach out to him instead of going above him, because the OP did and he didn't respond after what seems like quite a long period of time. Maybe what he meant was going in person to his office hours or something, but that's not what he said here on the post. So let me know what you would do in a situation like this down below. My mortgage was sold to a company that wants to charge me $14.95 to pay my bill online, so I sent them a check every week for 1/4 that amount instead. Last year, for like the 6th time since we bought our house, our mortgage was sold to yet another company. I've never been late paying it, have occasionally made extra payments, but I've never had any issues. But this new company wants to charge me $14.95 for a convenience fee to take a payment online. This is absolutely stupid. I can make the payment over the phone and pay another fee, or I can mail a check/money order for no fee. Also, I can set up auto pay, giving them access to my bank account, but that's a hard no from me. So I went online and my bank has a neat bill pay service where you can set it to repeat monthly, weekly, etc. I took the monthly payment, rounded it up a bit, and then set my bank to cut them a check every week for a bit over 1/4 of the amount. Doesn't cost me a dime. I don't even pay postage. I'm sure the money comes out of the account a little earlier than the mortgage company actually gets it, losing me a tiny bit of interest or something, but man, it makes me feel better than trying to charge me $15 for what is essentially an automated process for them. They now get to process 4 to 5 checks a month, and I'm sure they have the whole process down to an art for minimal human interaction, but it's not zero. I really want to press my luck and send 1/30th of the payment every day, but I figured my bank might cut me off at that point, which would be 1 check for every single day of the month. This one is actually pretty awesome. A fine showing in the art of malicious compliance. At first, I didn't completely understand why it was 1/4 of the amount. I thought it was because he was calculating for not paying the fee, but he's just saying in order to send them as many checks as possible so that it's annoying for them to have to go and cash these checks every single month as a way to get back at them for charging this absurd $15 a month online convenience fee. I've seen some of these online convenience fees that are absolutely ridiculous. One of the ones that I saw not too long ago was $60 for every time you wanted to pay, which is totally absurd. If his bank actually allowed him to do 1/30th of the payment so he could send out a check every day, that would be pretty hilarious. And I think think the company would get the message a lot quicker than 4 checks a month in this case. If you guys have ever had any experiences with these ridiculous convenience fees, let me know down below. In this malicious compliance story, the OP blows a major aerospace company's mind with a foreign graduate degree. I work for a big American technology and defense firm with tens of thousands of employees. A senior executive who had worked there successfully for years was caught with a falsification on his resume. He was immediately fired, and a new policy was instituted requiring all employees to sign a form giving the company permission to query the college or university with their highest claimed degree for verification. I have a doctorate from an old prestigious European university, an institution that I was quite sure would have no interest in such a query. But whatever. I signed the permission form and attached a note warning the company that the university would probably ignore the request, which it did. After a month or two with no response, HR called me in and said that the university had not responded as I warned, but that corporate would accept a photocopy of my degree. Fine, I'm good with that. Remember the old prestigious European university part? My degree is a piece of actual parchment about the size of a throw rug with a wax seal about a centimeter thick and written entirely in Latin. So I bring it into the office and photocopy it a bit at a time by sliding it around on the photocopier window. It takes like 12 pages to get it all. I staple them into a pile and give it to HR, who reluctantly pass it on to corporate. Another month passes and HR calls me again. Corporate is complaining that your degree is written in a foreign language. Yep, I say. It's in Latin. Tell them to find a priest to translate it, and I walked out. I never heard them bring it up again. A few other points of clarification that he added was that this took place well over 20 years ago when stuff like this did not happen on the web. Snail mail and paper mail were the standard. And he also mentions that his work is in the civilian sector, which does not require a clearance. Being an American with a foreign PhD did not cause any hassles. What happens in the case where you lose the copy of your degree? I mean, if you can't call up your university to get you a new one, what options do you really have? You just have to have people take you on your word that you actually did go there, or carry around this photocopied version of this giant scroll. I've actually never heard of an old university doing this where they just give you a massive scroll and, as he describes it, like a throw rug instead of just a normal degree. But maybe that's just tradition wherever this university is at over in Europe. I would love to know if this corporation actually ended up getting a priest to translate the degree after all. Let me know down below if you've ever heard of anything like this before. Am I the jerk for not snowblowing the new neighbor's driveway? Our old neighbor, Mr. B, passed away last year. He was a very sweet old man, kind of like the neighborhood grandpa. He was a widower and the last couple of years started having mobility issues. When it snowed, we would go over with a snowblower and clear his driveway and salt the walk. In the summer, if I was out mowing, I would do his lawn too. When his health went downhill, we got his groceries and would bring him meals. When he passed away, we continued to mow the lawn and take care of the outside of the house when it was vacant. His children were very appreciative and thanked us for taking care of Mr. B when they could not be there. They eventually sold the house and the new neighbors moved into the house in the fall. We introduced ourselves and did the standard neighbor greeting. We noticed they didn't have any lawnmowers or snowblowers, so we told them that they should get those things sooner rather than later, since we typically start getting snow in November. A few times when I was out mowing, the neighbor asked me to mow their lawn and I obliged, but I told him that they should really consider getting their own yard tools or calling a service. We just had a huge snowfall and are expected to get more this weekend. The neighbor came to my house early on Sunday morning and banged on my door asking when I was going to be out snow blowing, as they needed to get to work. I told the neighbors that I was not going to shovel/snow blow anytime soon, so they may want to dig their cars out so they could get to work. He told me that they didn't have any shovels and explained that they were relying on me to come over and take care of it. I told him that I was not planning on doing that. I told him that he could borrow a shovel if he would like, but I was going back to bed. When I did go out to shovel and snowblow several hours later, I did not do their driveway. The neighbors are now angry at me, and he confronted me outside saying that it's my fault they had to call out of work. My wife thinks that I should have sucked it up and went over, but I told her that I'm not a landscaping service and that I should not have to wake up early and shovel their driveway. Am I the jerk for not snowblowing for the neighbors? The level of entitlement here is unbelievably high. It makes me wonder if they knew that the OP was doing the shoveling and snowblowing for Mr. B and thought that was a perk of the house or something. I mean, the OP clearly keeps warning them that they got to get their own tools and start doing it, but yet they did none of that. And I can't believe that he obliged to mow their lawn when he was mowing his lawn. That just seems so weird. Maybe it was that exact moment that it enabled this entire situation. But let me know what you would do if your neighbors did this to you and got mad at you and confronted you for not snow blowing and mowing their lawn. Jerk or not a jerk, and why? Today on Am I the Jerk, we have a submission. You can submit your own stories via the links down below in the description if you'd like one of them to maybe be featured here on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe with notifications turned on by hitting the bell. Follow Am I the Jerk on Instagram and check out the podcast. But for now, let's jump straight into it. I banged my husband's friend while he watched. He then left me and told everyone that I cheated on him, and now I'm pregnant. My husband and I have 2 kids, ages 2 and 4. We were married when I was pregnant with the 4-year-old and have been together for just over 5 years total. About 6 months ago, my husband asked me to do the deed with another man in front of him while he watched. I was not 100% comfortable with this, but he asked a few times and eventually I agreed. I had a couple of rules, like whoever he found must have a recent and clean STI test because my husband didn't want to use rubber protection. I was on birth control at the time, and he had to set it all up. And that was the extent of my involvement until the event itself. He went out and found a friend that was willing to do it. My husband said he was sure he wanted this. He begged me to go through with it. I did. And he left within a week, citing this as his reason. He's now telling anyone who will listen that the friend and I cheated. The friend told the truth, but obviously nobody believes that my husband would ask his friend to do this with me. When someone asks me about it, I tell them the truth, but no one believes me either. I've been cut off from my friend's family due to this, and my husband is not currently in contact with me or the kids. The kids have been cut off as well, which is hurting them. Most have just gone silent on me, but the few who have reached out have not been kind. It was our younger child's birthday a few days ago, and we arranged to do something with just family, grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins, all dad's side, and no one came. My brother ended up dropping by, but that was a surprise as he wasn't invited, as I'm low to no contact with most of my family. So my kids have primarily interacted with their dad's family, and that's the side they're more attached to. It's been about 4.5 to 5 months since doing the deed with a friend happened, and about a month ago, I found out that I am pregnant. I did the deed plenty of times with my husband, both before and after this event with his friend, but the fact that I also did the deed with his friend and that my only protection has clearly failed, the birth control, that cannot be overlooked. I'm now starting to show signs of pregnancy. I need to know who the father is. My husband isn't speaking to me, not even to discuss a divorce or the kids, and I don't even know where he's living right now, but if I ask the friend to get tested and my husband finds out, this whole situation becomes significantly worse. There are a couple of aspects I need help with, so I'd be grateful for any help on any of them. First off, what do I do about my husband's family, who the kids adore and really want to speak to? Then, what do I do about my husband, who is ignoring our kids? What do I do about the baby? Do I talk to the friend first or to my husband first? Neither of them? Both of them? What is the safest way to go about all of this? Then there's an update from the future that says, I went for a DNA test and it ran against the cheek swab for my 2-year-old, and the results suggest that they are full siblings. I told my husband, who said he will be arranging his own paternity test. I called a solicitor and we're trying to start legal proceedings. Unfortunately, I live in a country with very specific rules around divorce, so the easiest way to end my marriage would be if my husband filed for divorce claiming that I cheated. It is still possible for me to apply for a divorce, but it's more complicated as he hasn't been gone long enough to claim desertion. And he also hasn't done anything divorce-worthy in the eyes of the law. So I'm leaving the specifics to my legal rep and hoping that they can sort it out. But we informed my husband and we're kind of hoping he files first on the grounds of adultery. While adultery shouldn't affect the outcome of the divorce when it comes to splitting assets and custody, though my legal reps are checking our prenup and 50-50 custody is the norm here, I do intend to go for full custody as he has ignored the kids since he left, and even when he was here, I was by far the more involved parent. When I told him that I was pregnant, which was after I told him about my plan for divorce, he sent me several messages messages saying that he forgives me for cheating and wants to be a family. I had asked his friend to contact Snapchat to recover the old messages in which my husband asked him to do the deed with me. And when I went to ask him for an update, the friend appeared to have blocked me. I have also received roses from my husband with a note reiterating that he forgives me, he loves me, and he loves the kids, and that he wants to make this work for the baby. I don't even know where he got my new address. As he has not offered an alternative explanation, at this point, I'm going with the general consensus on my last post before the update, which is that my husband has manipulated me into cheating on him so that he can divorce me while getting as much sympathy as possible. New developments suggest that the baby has ruined this plan. I'm also assuming that if the paternity test shows the baby isn't his, he will divorce me. Though based on the siblingship test, this baby is his, which means my marital status is in the hands of a total jerk. This is the absolute most roundabout way to divorce someone, to make them go through all of this, to put them in experiences they clearly do not want to do, only to ultimately get what you want, which I guess is divorce if that's what the husband actually wanted, at the expense of what sounds like a pretty humiliating experience for the OP. I mean, she has to go in front of his family and they all think that she cheated on him when it sounds like she wasn't even the one that wanted to do this. According to what she said, he had to beg her to do this and that he was completely sure he wanted to do it. I believe it, but it just seems hard to imagine that he could have derived this entire plan just to go through and get a divorce with her in the most efficient way. Maybe that's what it was. Legally, this is the best way to do it, but what a horrible way to go about it. I think one thing that maybe is just as likely is that he thought that this is what he wanted for some reason, and then when he did it, or rather when she did it, everything fell apart and he had a full mental collapse on the whole situation, realizing that actually, no, he did not want this, and maybe he can't see his wife the same after this whole dark experience. But I mean, it is pretty wild that he would just totally flip on his wife and pretend like he never said that. I mean, who can go and say a very point blank direct statement, I want you to do this, you go through this whole process, and then you claim that you never said that? That is pretty wild. So going back to the OP's original questions, what do I do about the husband's family? What do I do about my husband? What do I do about the baby? Do I talk to the friend first or my husband? When it comes to all of those things, what would you tell a friend that was in a situation like that? Let me know down below. Am I the jerk for flipping out on my husband for canceling my job interview? In 2019, I could no longer work because of my physical disabilities. No company wanted to hire me for the past couple of years, and my husband said that it's better that I just stay home and not worry about working. I agreed, and he's become the breadwinner. Then, it's like a switch that flipped because chores were 50-50, but after I lost my job, they became 100% on me. Keep in mind, my physical disabilities that developed. His excuse for not doing anything to help is that I stay home 24/7. I told him that's not fair, especially since I suffered from physical discomfort, so he made me a deal and promised that everything will be 50-50 once I start working again. I told him I would find a job and he laughed and said, good luck. I remember this vividly because of the strange laugh that I never heard him laugh before. I started looking for a job again for months but had no luck until my friend's husband found me a potential job at a company that would have me work from home due to physical strains. I was so excited and felt like I was capable again despite the struggle. They scheduled an interview with me, and when I told my husband, he looked red in the face but said nothing. 2 days ago, I found out that my job interview got canceled. I found out when my friend reached out to ask why I did that, but I said I had no idea. I checked my email and found nothing because I didn't send anything to the company. My husband came home and admitted canceling the interview. I asked why, and he said that this job had lots of requirements and I didn't seem to be accepted there, so to spare me the heartache of being rejected, he just canceled the interview. I flipped out on him and told him that he destroyed my one and only chance at landing a job, but he said he was just feeling concerned about my well-being. I told him he probably didn't want me to work because he didn't want to split the house chores, and he seemed offended by that. He threw a fit about how unreasonable and how selfish I was to even consider a job without speaking to him first. I told him I don't get involved in his work life. He called me horrible for accusing him of bad intentions, then went out to meet his friends, probably to vent because one of them told me that my husband is out looking for me, but I was being cruel to him by yelling. He has been cold shouldering me since then, deleted my social media accounts, claiming they're bad for my mental health because of the negative effect some of those platforms have. So am I the jerk for yelling at him because he canceled my job interview? This guy seems like he has some serious control issues. There's actually a little line before this entire post starts where it says, this is a new account because he deleted my main account. So he even deleted the account that she would be posting from. So she had to make a new account to type this. Yeah, this entire thing seems like a red flag. But it is strange that if this whole entire thing is just to have her do the chores, I mean, why is he that afraid of doing chores that he would rather get into this whole entire situation where he's canceling her job interviews and basically trying to keep her from leaving the situation where she by default has to do all the chores in the house? I'm assuming the OP didn't want to get a job because she didn't want to do 100% of the chores, but maybe that had some small part of the role. I'm sure she just probably wanted to have a job because people tend to want to have jobs. But this particular job seems like something that's bad to have messed up because it would have allowed her to work from home, and it sounds like it would have worked around all of her disabilities, which would have been potentially a really rare thing to find, somebody to accommodate all of that for you. So let me know what you guys think down below, jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for speaking highly of my boyfriend's exes when he tries to make me feel insecure by talking about them? I said early on in my relationship with my boyfriend that I don't care to talk about past relationships or past hookup partners. I understand everyone has a past, but I don't care to get into detail. And I felt like a few times he'd tell me about exes in a way just to make me feel jealous or insecure in comparison. For example, subtly mentioning that they would do stuff in bed that I don't enjoy a few days after I'd say no to something, or comparing me unfavorably to them. Anyway, I decided that I wasn't going to let anyone make me feel less secure in myself. So whenever my boyfriend would speak positively of them, I'd speak even more highly. For example, when he'd mention an ex who had a thorough beauty treatment, I'd say something like, "Wow, she must be so smart to find the best things that work for her. All my friends who got really into skincare have such a good understanding of chemistry and biology, even though skincare is often looked down upon for being girly. What does she study again? Oh, marketing? Wow, she must really understand people well, really know what makes people tick to do that. That's so impressive. Where's she work now? Oh, you don't keep in touch? That's a shame. I would have loved to meet her. She sounds so wonderful. Wait, what? She wasn't a good person, but you always speak so highly of her. Well, everyone can make mistakes, but I'm sure she's good at heart." This would, of course, irritate him because he felt that this ex of his wasn't a very good person and that there were reasons they broke up, and I was just gushing about how cool she was. Another time, he mentioned having dated a wealthy girl in high school. He also mentioned another time how she joined the Peace Corps for a few years after college, and whenever he'd bring her up again, I talk about how cool she sounded, how big of a leap of faith it must be from being in a very privileged life to setting all luxuries aside to do good in the world. And he started getting irritated with me saying that she cheated on him. And I said that they were young, people grow and change, and maybe he doesn't need to hold on to that much resentment about a girl he dated in his teens and early 20s. Anyway, after I stopped engaging in competition or resentment between women, he stopped bringing up other women in a way that seemed to be intended to foster competition. I also felt better about myself. I personally believe that envy isn't a productive thing to engage in. You'll get much further in life by reaffirming it as admiration and respect. He was also angry that I spoke of his exes who he had bad or upsetting breakups with in the way that I'd speak of a dear friend who I admire. And I feel a little petty and passive aggressive for having done that. So, am I the jerk for speaking highly of my boyfriend's exes? This actually sounds kind of genius. I'm sort of surprised that it worked. Somehow I never would have visualized this actually being a thing that would make him stop talking about other girls in this type of way, but it does make sense because in some way he's trying to have the cake and eat it too. He's trying to pick and choose the good parts of her, apply them to the OP, but leave out the bad parts of the ex because obviously he doesn't want the OP to copy the bad parts of the ex, the parts where she went and cheated or she was doing things that he didn't like and didn't want to be around. But all of that is kind of communicated in the non-verbal communication, the subtext of it all. And it sounds like the OP is being clever enough to purposely misunderstand what he's saying, maybe not in the exact words, but in the sentiment of how he's trying to bring it up, because he's trying to to do exactly what she's saying. He's trying to breed some sort of weird competitiveness between her, the girl that's in front of him, the OP, and somebody else in the past who is just a collection of memories at this point, it sounds like. The top response on this whole thing said, what you did not only makes you the opposite of a jerk, it honors the women he was trying to pit you against, who in many cases were probably put through the same nonsense by his misogynistic desire to make women feel that they have to compete for his attention and approval. He went low and you took the high road. He tried to bait you and you took the bait and made a gourmet dinner out of it and served it back to him with a big old smile on your face. Yeah, so all in all, a pretty clever way to respond to something like that, but then you have to ask yourself the question, do you even really want to be with someone who would do that to you in the first place to make you feel this type of way at all? That you would have to come up with a response like this? Let me know down below in the comments, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for giving my dog an offensive name and then refusing to change it? I have several dogs, one of which is an American Akita. His name is Yankee. I thought it was funny and he seemed to like his name. My sister was in the States for the past 2 years and recently flew home with her boyfriend in tow. First time we've met him, yada yada. I guess she never mentioned me or my dogs, but he was pretty surprised when I told him my dog's name. I didn't think much of it. Most of my pets have peculiar names, so I just assumed it was an overall reaction. They left, my partner and I had dinner. Partway through our food, my sister called and asked if I'd reconsider changing my dog's name. I kind of thought she was kidding, but she reiterated that she was serious. The name Yankee had upset her boyfriend quite badly. He found it offensive. I basically told her to piss off and tell him to grow up before going back to my food. The following day, they literally showed up at my door. I was kind of taken aback. Apparently, they came to tell me why Yankee's name was so awful. During this discussion, he told me it essentially is a slur used against Americans and asked if I would ever name a dog the N-word. I just kind of laughed and told him he was off his nut. It's not that serious. You can't equate the word Yankee to something like the N-word. I told him I wasn't going to change my dog's name. He knows it. It'd be a ton of work. He's a personal protection, so it could even damage his work. They thankfully left, but still seem pretty upset. Thinking back now, I'm pretty sure there's a company with Yankee in the name. I wonder how many letters of complaints he sent to them. Anyway, I did message my American friends just to make sure I wasn't being a total jerk, and they all agreed he was being stupid. But I know the US is huge, and it might be more of a regional thing, so I'm still not sure. I'm starting to feel kind of jerkish for not taking him seriously when it may be a genuine issue for him. So, 2 birds, 1 stone. I know a lot of Americans frequent this. Am I the jerk? And is this an issue in the States that I should apologize for? I don't think I have ever met somebody in my entire life who has been offended by the term Yankee. I mean, that's kind of an old-timey term for the most part anyway, besides the team, obviously. I feel like a long time ago, people used the word Yankee a lot more than they do now. And I get what the OP is saying, that the US is huge and there might be some small pocket somewhere that's offended by the word Yankee, but I don't think that's true. Or if it is, it's a very, very small group of people that I would be interested to see why that is offensive to them. Okay, so I just want to look on a word history site, and apparently there is some sort of offensive thing way back in the 1600s about Yankee, the word. It says this word was applied disparagingly by Dutch settlers in New Amsterdam, New York, to English colonists in the neighboring Connecticut. It might be from Dutch Jankie, literally meaning little John, of a common person's name Jan, or it might be from Jan Kess, familiar form of John Cornelius, or perhaps an alteration of Jan Keys, a dialect variant of Jan Kaas, which literally means John Cheese. So originally this was used insultingly to the Dutch, especially freebooters, but it ended up getting turned around and slapped on the English. So maybe a long time ago if you were one of these groups of people, but in the present day, I mean, we have the Yankee Doodle. So with all that said, let me know what you guys think. Jerk or not a jerk for giving the dog an offensive name and then refusing to change it? Am I the jerk for appropriating Native American culture? I'm a 21-year-old female and I was told my whole life that I was Native American. My biological father and his father were registered tribal members. He took me to summer gatherings with other natives where we would have bonfires and all the aunties and uncles would get sloshed and we would sing and dance, and I always kept my hair long because that's what my biological father taught me to do. My mother is white, so I would have been mixed. I have black hair, dark brown eyes, but her paler skin tone. My dad's family always assured me that my skin tone was my mom's and would joke that I had to get something from her genes. My father would braid my hair and have me braid his. He kept his hair long too, and for a very long time it was something that he and I could bond over. Unfortunately, both of my parents are addicts, and my dad gave up custody of me and my sisters when I was 14 or 15, and then my biological mother gave us up when I was 17, and I was adopted into a family while my other sisters went to live with my older sister. My adoptive parents are wonderful. My adoptive mom is Native as well. She encouraged me to take a DNA test and further pursue my heritage. It came back with no Native American whatsoever. I double-checked the results, and sure enough, I'm basically Scottish, and that's it. That's how I found out my biological father wasn't my dad. I'm the result of one of my mom's many affairs, and I felt devastated. I felt like I lost something that had connected me to the man that raised me for the first 14 years of my life. Even if he did struggle, I loved him. I didn't pursue finding my true biological father because honestly, I don't care about it. My adoptive parents are incredible, and they are all that I need. I was so upset I cut off my hair, something I hadn't done in years, and tried to figure out why a person that is 100% European would have thick, coarse black hair and dark brown eyes. I was talking to my cousin about how this discovery had affected me, and she snapped and said, "Only a white girl could steal Native culture for 20 years and then still manage to make herself the victim." I was shocked, and I apologized. And she said, "Don't say sorry to me, say sorry to every person you've ever lied to." And now, after thinking about it, I feel like I might be the jerk for never second guessing what my heritage might be, or that I may be making myself the victim here when I did do something pretty awful. So, am I the jerk for appropriating Native American culture all this time? The OP's cousin here is totally out of pocket. That makes no sense to say, go apologize to all the people you've ever lied to. I mean, the OP didn't know that this was not her bloodline. I mean, she grew up in this environment where her and her dad had this bonding over the culture. She went to all these events, it sounds like, over time. She probably felt like she's part of it. There's no possible way she would know that she wasn't. I think that's pretty far away from what most people define as appropriating a culture. And then she tells her, "Don't say sorry to me, say sorry to every person you've ever lied to." I don't even know why the OP apologized in the first place. There's nothing really to apologize for at all. I mean, it sounds like a brutal situation with both parents being addicts in the first place, and then the cousin's gonna come at you and say stuff like this. That is terrible. Some people in the comments that knew more about how this works exactly said some pretty insightful stuff. The top of which said some tribes don't identify membership by blood, but rather by commitment and connection. I'd suggest talking with a tribal elder, explaining the situation, and telling him or her about the connection that you feel. He or she can probably give you much better guidance than anyone in this sub. I think that's totally on point, and I think also the adoptive mom who is Native, as the OP says, could probably offer some guidance as well when it comes to this, more so than somebody who has no idea about the culture at all. So let me know what you guys think and what you would do in this situation, jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for saying my husband is a good father? When he was in his early 20s, my husband got a girl pregnant. They were casually dating in college and they had a lot of mutual friends. He didn't want to be a dad and told her as such, but she was adamant about keeping the baby. He was supportive through the pregnancy, but was clear that he didn't want to be involved. He wanted to renounce his rights, but ended up with an agreement where he still pays child support but doesn't do visitation nor has involvement in any parental decisions. The girl is now 12 years old and he hasn't met her nor plans to ever do so. I met him 8 years ago and we've been married for almost 7 years. He told me about having the whole biological child out there very early on. I was and am fine with it. It is sad that a child came into the world under those circumstances, but I don't think he was wrong for choosing not to be involved. We now have a 5-year-old son. My husband has always been wonderful to me. That's why I fell in love with him. He was great during the pregnancy and birth, and he has been doting on our son and me ever since. I think he is a wonderful dad and husband. The problem: 2 of his friends married their college girlfriends who were/are friends with his biological daughter's mother. In now 3 occasions and conversations where I said my husband is a wonderful father, one of them said something snarky and mean like, "Yeah, it's only one of his children." Over the weekend, we attended one of the kids' birthday parties, and I was chatting to another mom about motherhood and said that it's easier when you have a good team player in your spouse. The homeowner mom chimed in to say loudly, "If only the mother of his other child had the same." Later, I confronted her in the kitchen, said that I was very tired of her and the other friend making comments about my husband, that she didn't need to invite us to things or spend time with us if she didn't want to, but it was super disrespectful to be constantly insulting him as a father. She told me she initially liked me but finds it distasteful and rude that I keep praising my husband as a good father when I'm well aware that he isn't, that she will always make sure to correct me because it is not okay that he got away with what he did and now he gets to play happy family with me and our son. The conversation went south from then on and of course we left. The other mom friend texted me yesterday to tell me that she completely backs up what the other mom said and that I'm horrible for marrying and having a kid with a deadbeat, and on top of it to praise him as a good dad. I have no doubts on my feelings. My husband has been and is great with our son and with me. And I guess I never thought how my words could be insensitive towards his biological daughter and her mother, whom I've never met, but am I the jerk for occasionally saying that my husband is a good father when talking to people? And should I stop? This is kind of a weird one because most people are not still hanging out in the same exact circles as they did way back then at the time he's talking about, where his old high school girlfriend, or I think it was actually a college girlfriend. But it seems like everyone involved in this story all knows each other. So the relationships are a little bit too close for comfort, it seems like. And not that that would absolve the dad of leaving the kid or not, but it's kind of always going to be in your face if you're in these really small, tight circles where everyone knows each other on this level. The OP obviously hasn't met the biological daughter of her husband or the mother, but everyone there knows exactly who this is, and now they know who she is. It's kind of the same vibe as being in a town that's too small where everyone's up in each other's business all the time. But going back to what the father actually did, it sounds like the father let his college girlfriend know that he didn't want her to go through with it, meaning the pregnancy, and that he communicated what his role would be if she did. It sounds like she knew that he wasn't going to be there if she had the kid, and she ended up having the kid anyway. So in other words, it wasn't a big surprise that the father was not going to be there because it sounds like he made that all clear before she ever gave birth to begin with. One of the responses kind of said something along the lines of this where they said he wasn't ready to be a father then. He made that very clear to the ex. He still supported her through pregnancy, still paid child support, and has stuck to their agreement, as has the ex. What is he supposed to just show up at random, toss that little girl's life into disarray because he's not a deadbeat, which he doesn't seem to be at all? Your other comments even make it clear that he recognized it would be unethical to give away parental rights. Oh yeah, and the child support thing is one part that I forgot to bring up, but he did pay the child support for this entire time for 12 years straight, which obviously he would have to do that anyway, but a lot of people try and fight that or resist that or get away from that. It sounds like he made the agreement and stuck to it. So let me know what you guys think. Jerk or not a jerk, and why? Am I the jerk for asking my husband to choose between his daughters? I am so riled up, help me God. I'm a 50-year-old woman and my husband is a 51-year-old male. We were married for 21 years. He divorced his pregnant wife to get with me, but he saw his daughter Kristen whenever he wanted. Later, I gave birth to our daughter Sasha, but my husband was cheating on me and we took a break. I forbade him to see our daughter. He missed her early years and now I think it changed everything. Kristen is 21 years old now. He doesn't treat her and Sasha, who's 18 years old, the same. Kristen is his number one thing. He comes running if she calls him and he can just drop everything if she asks. He pays for Sasha's education, but she just isn't his top priority. He always talks about Kristen. It's always about her. Sasha feels it and it hurts her. I'm sure Kristen hates me for breaking her mom and my husband up. She always does things to rile me up. She calls my husband 5 times a day to chat, even late at night when she knows he's with me. She makes him spend a week and a month with her just chilling in his apartment. He never spends as much time with Sasha and we live together. It's a victory if I manage to get us to watch a movie together. Recently, I learned that my husband left everything to Kristen in his his will. She gets the apartment, his World War II collection, when Sasha just gets one room in an old hostel building. Now, there is a cat. Kristen already has 3 cats. There is no place for more. So she dragged one into my husband's flat. She's claiming someone threw him away and she just wanted to give him a home. That is total BS. She's doing everything to keep my husband chained to his second flat, away from his other daughter and me. He now has to stay there to feed it. Kristen doesn't when he's not there, but now he has a reason to spend more time in his flat, and he keeps doing it. Kristen knew it would be like this. She did it on purpose, I'm sure. I asked my husband to give away the cat or we'd have a problem. He said he'd think, but he went and consulted Kristen. From what I got, she accused him of betraying the cat and stopped talking to him. My husband spent all night writing her apologies and told me he'd never get rid of the cat. He didn't even want it. Kristen brought it. It's just one more thing that keeps him away from his family. I finally had enough and I told him to pick between Kristen and Sasha. He can't have 2 relationships at once, and if he cares about Sasha, he has to prove it and pick her at least this once. It was weeks ago. He refused to give me his answer, and I keep feeling like I'm a jerk, but I get angry again. I know he loves Kristen, but maybe the threat to not seeing Sasha will make him realize he has another daughter who also needs his attention. So, am I the jerk for wanting my husband to focus on our daughter for a change instead of constantly running around his first daughter? This is a very cruel ultimatum. I mean, she knew when she first met him that he had another baby because he divorced his pregnant wife to be with her. So just that decision alone, you're inheriting a lot that comes with it. But it is a hard situation. I mean, what can you do to make somebody care more about someone? I think most people would probably agree that you can't force somebody to care, at least not genuinely. You can force them to appear to care, but it's hard to make them actually care. The way he probably sees it is he already lives in the same house as Sasha, so he sees her 3 out of 4 weeks already, and Kristen he only gets that 1 week with. But the OP clearly doesn't think that's quality time. That 3 out of 4 weeks is more quantity time and not quality time. Somebody called this situation parental alienation because she was jealous, and that the dad and Sasha didn't bond because of you, the OP, and now you're upset because they're not bonded. I mean, yeah, the history on this is that she forbade him from seeing Sasha during the early years, so he probably doesn't have that same type of connection to Sasha since he didn't get to experience all those memories when she was really young. That's got to be at least in part influencing how he is now. But what do you guys think? Jerk or not a jerk, and why?
When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.